Part 21. Martial Arts, Become Invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 201. According to the custom of the Great Zhou dynasty, the newlyweds should serve tea to their parents-in-law on the morning of the second day, and then return home to serve tea to their father-in-law and mother-in-law. Only then can the entire wedding process be completed. But Xiao Wuji's parents died, so the part of serving tea to his father-in-law and mother-in-law was naturally omitted. The home of the father-in-law and mother-in-law is right next door, so serving tea to the father-in-law and mother-in-law is also simple. In addition, Xiao Wuji is a man of the world, free and uninhibited by nature, and does not have so many red tapes. Su Weiner didn't need to get up early to prepare breakfast, she could just let her servants do it. Su Yu and his wife were also happy to see Su Weiner leisurely and at ease. One of the benefits of marrying Xiao Wuji is that there won't be so many rules in life in the future. Come on, sit down and have breakfast. Mother Su smiled and pulled Xiao Wuji and Su Weiner to sit down, and thoughtfully gave her a bowl of Shiquan Dabu decoction, and at the same time peeled a few eggs and gave them to Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji was stunned for a moment, a little dumbfounded, but he still expressed his gratitude to his mother-in-law. The Lord expressed his gratitude. He drank Shiquan Dabu decoction early in the morning. This treatment was so good that Xiao Wuji felt a little uncomfortable. His body is very good, right? There is no need for supplements at all. With Xiao Wuji's cultivation level, yesterday night was nothing at all, it was Su Weiner who needed to make up for it. Weiner, you drink too, to replenish your health, and don't let down your mother-in-law's wishes. Xiao Wuji said with a smile. Su Weiner's pretty face was slightly red, and she obviously heard the tone of Xiao Wuji's words. By the way, Wuji, are you going to Bijin Fuzi today? Su Yu took a sip of porridge and looked at Xiao Wuji and asked. Xiao Wuji shook his head and said no, third brother gave me a few days off and asked me to spend more time with my newlywed wife. That's good, you two go out for a walk more often. The wedding banquet was laid out for 7 days and 7 nights before it ended. After that, Xiao Wuji didn't go to Fuzi, Bijin for more than half a month. He accompanied Su Weiner on sightseeing tours 26 days a day. At various scenic spots around Jinling City, Xiao Wuji took Su Weiner with him. Been there once. Shuehua. What is he here for? Let him in. Yes. The guard hurriedly retreated and walked in with Shuehua. Seeing Xiao Wuji, Shuehua immediately clasped his fists and bowed in salute. Shuehua, my subordinate, please see Mr. Qinhu. Xiao Wuji smiled and said, tell me, why did you come to me today? Shuehua said, on the orders of Yuan Qinhu, I invite Mr. Qinhu to go to Bijin Fuzi to discuss important matters. Oh? What happened? Xiao Wuji frowned slightly. For Yuan Xiong to send someone to invite him, it shows that something big must have happened. Shuehua shook his head and said, I don't know. Xiao Wuji stood up and said, wait a minute while I change my clothes. Afterwards, Xiao Wuji returned to the room. Su Weiner helped Xiao Wuji put on the flying fish suit and smoothed Xiao Wuji's collar. His face was full of worry. Xiao Wuji touched Su Weiner's head and said with a smile, don't worry. I'll be fine. You have to believe in your husband's strength. Su Weiner said Xiao Lang must come back safely. Weiner is waiting for you at home. Good. Xiao Wuji smiled, kissed Weiner's forehead, turned and left. Looking at Xiao Wuji's leaving figure, Su Weiner clenched the handkerchief tightly, her knuckles turning white. Although she knew that Xiao Wuji's magical power was unparalleled, it is unlikely that she will be in danger. But she can't help but worry about Xiao Wuji's safety. The maid Xiaolan comforted her, don't worry, miss, my uncle will be fine. My uncle is very powerful in martial arts. No one in this world can be my rival. Besides, maybe it's not a big deal to find my uncle this time, and I'll be back in the evening. After leaving the Xiao mansion, Xiao Wuji rushed to Bijinfuzi as quickly as possible. All the Jinyi guards along the way smiled and greeted Xiao Wuji and congratulated him on his happy wedding. Xiao Wuji also responded one by one, and finally came to the central hall of Qinhuizhuo. As soon as he arrived at the door of the nave, Xiao Wuji saw Yuan Xiong sitting in the main seat with a solemn face. His eyes were looking at the documents in his hands without moving away for a moment. Xiao Wuji walked into the nave and said, "Third brother, I'm here." Yuan Xiong looked up at Xiao Wuji and nodded, "Just come. You have just gotten married, and the third brother originally didn't want to disturb you, but the matter is extremely urgent, and the third brother can only say sorry to you." Xiao Wuji smiled and said, "What are you talking about, third brother? You and I are brothers. If you say these things, we will become estranged. By the way, what happened? So urgent." Yuan Xiong handed the document in his hand to Xiao Wuji and said, "Take a look for yourself." Xiao Wuji took the document and opened it, flipping through it. He saw the most important content at a glance. The rebellion of the refugees in northern Xinjiang intensified, and a large-scale chaotic battle broke out with the imperial army. Jin Yue suffered heavy casualties, Qinhu Hongjianese died in the battle, and Lei Ba was seriously injured. This, Hong Qinhu died in the battle. Xiao Wuji was a little shocked. Not long ago, Hong Jianese and he were standing in this lobby chatting and laughing. Xiao Wuji was newly married. Although Hong Jianese went to northern Xinjiang, he also sent people to send congratulatory gifts. Xiao Wuji also we made an agreement with him to have a drink together when he comes back from northern Xinjiang. Unexpectedly, the last time we met was Yangzhou. Hong Jianese died in battle in northern Xinjiang. Not only that, Lei Ba was also seriously injured. It seems that northern Xinjiang's the refugee rebellion has reached the point where it is out of control. Yuan Xiong said solemnly, this northern Xinjiang refugee rebellion is completely different from before. The number has exceeded 50,000, and there are even more. Not only that, there are people from the Destiny sect secretly guiding the refugees in northern Xinjiang. The Jinyue and the Tianming cult clashed several times. Although they were temporarily repelled, they themselves suffered heavy casualties. This group of damn traitors really deserves to be punished by everyone. I will eradicate them all one day sooner or later. Yuan Xiong slapped the tea table to pieces, showing that he was already furious. Xiao Wuji also heard about the Destiny sect and knew some details. The Destiny sect is an evil sect in the Great Zhou dynasty. To read Bao's Huang novels, go to Feilu Novel Network. But unlike the evil blood sect, which kills people and practices martial arts, the Destiny sect is a sect with the ultimate goal of rebellion. Although the demon sect also aims to rebel, the Destiny sect and the demon sect are different. The demon sect rebels for revenge. Kingdom, regain control of the divine weapon. The Destiny sect is purely for rebellion. The Destiny sect has been passed down for more than 300 years. It has flourished and weakened over the past 300 years. When it was prosperous, it was comparable to the two sects of Buddhism and Taoism. There are many masters, and there is more than one great grand master. When it was weak, it was just a third-rate small sect without even a single grand master. More than 100 years ago, the Shangguan clan ruled the world, and the Destiny sect rebelled against the Shangguan clan. Now the Xia clan is in charge of the world, and the Tianming sect has rebelled against the Xia clan. For more than 300 years, the Tianming sect has been either rebelling or on the road to rebellion. Anyway, they don't like any dynasty, or they just want to rebel. The Tianming sect, the teachings are also very lofty. The one who has been destined by destiny, chooses the emperor on behalf of heaven, guides people to do good, and makes the world unified. Listen to it, is it thunderous and enlightening? When you hear it, the teachings of the Destiny sect are brighter and more righteous than countless righteous sects. The name of the Destiny sect also comes from the doctrine. But in fact, the Destiny sect is a complete evil sect. Destined to be the emperor chosen by heaven? When Xiao Wuji first saw these 8 words, he almost burst out laughing. Who dared to say such shameless words, and dare to use them as the teachings of a sect? It is heaven. A strong man who unites into one dare not say that he is destined by destiny and is qualified to choose the emperor on behalf of heaven. Although the strength of a mere destiny sect is good, there are many who are stronger than it. Looking at the whole world, the destiny sect does not count at all. What? After closing the document, Xiao Wuji looked at Yuan Xiong and asked, "What does third brother want me to do, leading people to support northern Xinjiang?" Yuan Xiong nodded and said, "Northern Xinjiang is short of manpower, reinforcements must be sent as soon as possible. The remaining 1,000 households in Fuzi, Bijan are not strong enough. I'm afraid they won't be able to help much if they go there. You are the strongest. Only if you go can the third brother feel relieved. Of course, those you have to deal with are all the masters of the Destiny section. Your second brother Zhou Chunkai can handle the great master of the Destiny section. At the moment, he is guarding northern Xinjiang and has had many confrontations with the Destiny sect." Xiao Wuji nodded and said, "Okay, I'll go." Yuan Xiong clapped his hands, and a middle-aged man in his mid-30s walked out from behind him. Yuan Xiong introduced his name as Fan Kaija, the 9th Taibao of Dazhu. "This is the first time you have met today. Let's get to know each other." Xiao Wuji looked at Fan Kaija, cupped his hands and said, "Xiao Wuji, the 13th Taibao, has met the 9th Taibao." Fan Kaija replied, "You're welcome, 13th brother. I'm a few years older than you. If you want, just call me 9th brother." 510. In terms of strength, I am not as good as you. Fan Kaija looks handsome, and he speaks like a breeze, with a smile from beginning to end, which makes people feel good without having to control themselves. Xiao Wuji smiled and shouted, "Hello, 9th brother." The 13 Taibao are all in the same spirit, and Fan Kaija is indeed older than him, so Xiao Wuji doesn't mind calling him 9th brother. Who makes him the youngest and has the shortest time to join the Taibao? There is nothing he can do if he is ranked 13th. But it feels good to be protected by 12 brothers. In the future, you don't need to rely on force when going out, but you can bully others with your background. Yuan Xiong looked at the 2 people and said, "This time the 9 Taibao will go with you. Because of his fast speed, he can go to northern Xinjiang first, and the follow-up troops will be led by his 9th brother." Xiao Wuji nodded and said, "Everything will be done according to the instructions of the third brother." Xiao Wuji and Fan Kaija clasped their fists at the same time and said in unison, "Subordinates, please retire." Leaving the central hall of Kinhu Institute, the electronic sound of the system suddenly sounded in Xiao Wuji's mind. Ding, the host triggers the task. The rebellion of the refugees in northern Xinjiang was caused by a sudden drought in northern Xinjiang, and the corrupt officials were at work. The Destiny sect secretly guided them, asking the host to put down the chaos in northern Xinjiang and save the people of northern Xinjiang. Mission reward, full level Tathagata Divine Palm. Good martial arts. Listening to the system prompts, a smile appeared on Xiao Wuji's lips, and then he went to the stable to get a sweaty horse, and immediately left Jinling City and headed for northern Xinjiang. One man and one horse traveled the world alone, and let Xiao Wuji remembered the mission of escorting the bloody ginseng back to Beijing. At that time, he was traveling across the rivers and lakes alone, killing people and killing Buddhas along the way. Swaying Quangdao drank the blood of many people. But this trip to northern Xinjiang, it is obviously more exciting than last time, and the number of people killed must be much more than last time. Jiang. The sword is psychic, and Shui Yin Kuang Dao senses Xiao Wuji's murderous intention, and makes a crisp sword cry, as if cheering for joy. "Don't worry, this time you will definitely enjoy the killing." Xiao Wuji patted the scabbard to calm down the killing intention of the sword. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 202. This time Xiao Wuji did not delay on the way and rushed to northern Xinjiang as quickly as possible. Northern Xinjiang is the collective name for Yongzhou, Dazhou, and Minzhou in the northern border of the Great Zhou dynasty. The three states and several surrounding small cities all belong to the northern border. Northern Xinjiang has been experiencing severe drought since the beginning of this year, with less than 3 rainy days in 9 months. As a result, there was no harvest in the three states, and the people had no food to eat, so they had no choice but to leave their homes and flee. The refugees from northern Xinjiang also came here because of this. After entering the territory of Yongzhou, Xiao Wuji saw countless refugees along the way. All of them were in ragged clothes, with bloodless faces and skinny bones. There was no life on the faces of these refugees, only numb and stiff expressions, and they moved forward tirelessly. There are refugees with their families, and some are alone, with all their family members dead. Some simply fainted and lost consciousness on the roadside, and may never wake up again. Xiao Wuji felt very uncomfortable, but he could not save these refugees. He had no dry food with him, and even if he had banknotes, it was like waste paper at this moment, unable to satisfy his hunger at all. I really didn't expect that the situation in northern Xinjiang has become so serious. You don't know it by looking at it, but you are shocked when you look at it. Although northern Xinjiang is not at the level of starvation and corpses everywhere, it is not far away. If we don't think of ways to save the people, people will soon starve to eat each other, and even to the point of exchanging children for food. Seeing it with your own eyes is much more shocking than a few descriptions in documents. No wonder the refugees in northern Xinjiang want to rebel. At this point, they can no longer survive anyway, so they might as well rebel and fight. If you win, you still have a chance to live. If you lose, you will die anyway. This dog emperor. According to the usual practice, Xiao Wuji pulled out the dog emperor and scolded him in his heart. The dog emperor must bear most of the responsibility for the situation in northern Xinjiang to the point where it is today. If he uses the money to rebuild the Great Luo Palace in northern Xinjiang, disaster relief to save the people, the refugees in northern Xinjiang will not be unable to survive and lead to rebellion. In addition to the dog emperor, all the corrupt officials in northern Xinjiang should be killed. Xiao Wuji looked at the countless refugees around him, his eyes were cold and murderous. At this moment, Xiao Wuji's heart boiled with murderous intent. Only blood can calm his murderous intent. Drive. Xiao Wuji swung his whip, hit the horse hard on the butt, and galloped towards Yongzhou. An hour later, Xiao Wuji arrived at the gate of Yongzhou city. The city gate was closed tightly, and there were horse-repelling stakes placed in front of the city gate. There were troops guarding outside. The refugees who came to Yongzhou were not allowed to enter the city, so they could only gather outside the city. Some refugees came forward to plead for mercy, hoping to enter the city, but they were chased away by soldiers and even whipped with horsewhips. Several soldiers were sitting there. They were roasting chicken and drinking wine, laughing loudly. The refugees who were going crazy with hunger looked at the fragrant roast chicken and couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Some people were hungry and wanted to go up and grab it, but they were afraid that the soldiers would kill them. Before, some refugees had tried to steal food from the soldiers, and in the end they all died. The bodies were thrown into the smelly ditch nearby. Xiao Wuji became angry when he saw it. These soldiers were not good things. Drive. Xiao Wuji rode to the city gate, and a soldier in armor immediately came up to drive him away with an extremely vicious attitude. Yongzhou city has been closed. Without the handwriting of the governor, no one is allowed to enter the city, so get out of here. Blind your dog eyes. Without saying a word, Xiao Wuji whipped the soldier in the face and whipped him away. When the soldiers at the rear saw that Xiao Wuji dared to make a move, they immediately rushed up with their spears. Xiao Wuji raised his hand and slapped him away. The strong palm wind immediately knocked them over, and their mouths and noses were bleeding. "Who are you? Want to rebel?" The city gate garrison commander looked at Xiao Wuji, his legs were trembling, and he shouted and cursed tremblingly. Although he was very scared, he pretended to be calm and his expression was fierce. The soldiers behind him were also frightened by Xiao Wuji and did not dare to act rashly. Then, they saw Xiao Wuji take out a Jinyue token. Holding the Jinyue token, Xiao Wuji shouted coldly, "I am the 13th Taibao of the Great Zhou dynasty, Xiao Wuji, a member of the Jinyue Thousand Households, who dares to block my way." Thousand Households. It's actually Kinhu. The garrison commander was shocked when he saw the Kinhu token. A trace of fear flashed in his eyes. The soldiers behind him all put down their spears and did not dare to act recklessly. The garrison commander stepped forward and said with a flattering smile, "I don't know Kinhu. Your Excellency came here and I bumped into you. I hope you will forgive me. The soldiers under my command were ignorant, and the official apologized to the Lord here." After saying that, the commander bowed and bowed. Xiao Wuji snorted coldly, without any good looks on his face. None of these Yongzhou soldiers were good people. There were countless refugees nearby who were suffering from cold and hunger, but they were drinking and eating meat. What are you doing? Showing off? Showing off that they can drink wine and eat meat, while the refugees can only chew tree bark. Who asked you to block the city gate? Why not let the people into the city? Xiao Wuji asked coldly. The garrison commander said respectfully, "Your Excellency, this is the order of the governor, and I also obey the order." Xiao Wuji said. As the governor of a state, is it possible that he wants to watch innocent people outside the city freeze to death and starve to death? The garrison commander said the governor is also helpless. In the past few months, Yongzhou has received too many refugees. After the refugees entered the city, they made trouble everywhere, smashing, looting and burning. There was no law at all. Because there are too many refugees, the governor would not be able to arrest them all even if he wanted to. Xiao Wuji said. Didn't the imperial court allocate disaster relief money and food? Why not open warehouses to store grain and give porridge to save the people? The garrison commander said porridge shacks have been set up everywhere in the city, and porridge is given out every day. But there are too many refugees, and the relief money and relief grains issued by the court are too small, and they are simply not enough. In addition, the rebels have been approaching recently. If they accept refugees on a large scale, they may put spies into the city. In order to protect the people in the city, the governor had no choice but to block the city gates and prohibit refugees from entering the city. These words are reasonable and well-founded, putting all the responsibilities on the refugees. But Xiao Wuji knows that the refugees are responsible, but there must also be problems with the officials in Yongzhou. If they focus on disaster relief and follow the example, the situation in Yongzhou will not be the same. As for whether it would deteriorate to such an extent, Xiao Wuji knew what the officials in the city were like just from seeing the behavior of the gatekeepers before. As the saying goes, like father, like son. What kind of officials there are, what kind of soldiers there are. The soldiers are so cruel, and the character of the officials can be imagined. Not only Yongzhou, but also Dezhou and Minzhou must be the same. In any year of great disaster, there will be corrupt officials who will cause trouble and make huge profits. These corrupt officials are all cannibals. Those ruthless people who don't spit out their bones should all be killed. Xiao Wuji looked at the guard commander and said coldly, "Open the city gate, I want to enter the city. Also, you and your soldiers are not allowed to harm the people anymore, otherwise I will take your lives." Swept by Xiao Wuji's cold eyes, the garrison commander and his soldiers all shuddered, the hair on their backs stood up, and cold sweat broke out. Yes, Yes, villains don't dare anymore. The garrison commander nodded respectfully, then waved his hand and ordered open the city gate and let the Kinhu adults enter the city. The city gate opened a crack, just enough to allow one person and one horse to enter. After Xiao Wuji entered the city gate was closed again. It was not that Xiao Wuji did not want to let the refugees into the city, but that the garrison commander was right. The refugees were at this moment they have reached the edge of madness. Once they are put into the city, they will do anything to fill their stomachs. Beating, smashing, looting and burning are still light, but serious murders are common. Xiao Wuji will not save the lives of refugees outside the city. He did not have the right or qualification to sacrifice the lives of the people in the city. If he wanted to save people, he had to take it step by step slowly. Xiao Wuji asked passers-by for directions. After knowing the location of the governor's mansion, he rushed to the governor's mansion. In Yangzhou City, Xiao Wuji also saw many homeless people. They were entrenched on both sides of the road, no different from beggars. Suddenly, Xiao Wuji saw a gathering place for homeless people on the street, and there was a sound of shouting and cursing in the distance. It's time to give out porridge, and everyone is queuing up. Come and get it one by one bowl per person, no one can have more. Xiao Wuji saw that under a sign for official relief, a policeman and several government servants cooked 7 or 8 pots of porridge. The pot was very big, and one pot of porridge was enough for 20 or 30 people. When the porridge was cooked, it turned white. The porridge is colorful and plump, and the porridge is fragrant. Countless refugees swallowed their saliva crazily. Although it is a large white porridge with no side dishes and is bland and tasteless, it is also a life-saving thing for the refugees. For the refugees, this large white porridge is nothing. A delicious meal. However, after the porridge was cooked, the policeman did not serve it immediately. He grabbed a handful of chopsticks and inserted them into the porridge. He looked at the many refugees and said, "There is a saying in the laws of the Zhou dynasty. When chopsticks float up, heads fall to the ground. Wang Di Hao. Everyone has seen it. Now the chopsticks are firmly stuck in the porridge, standing like a big tree. We have not violated the laws of the great Zhou dynasty. But the yamen only cooks the porridge and does not divide the porridge. If you want to get the porridge, go to the next door." At this time, Xiao Wuji noticed that there was a sign for civilian relief next to the official relief. There was also a porridge shed. The police would cook the thick porridge, transport it to the next door, and pour it into a water tank. A pot of porridge was mixed with 5 jars of water. The thick porridge that could not be poured over with chopsticks suddenly turned into cold rice soup. When a bowl of rice soup was scooped up, not even 10 grains of porridge could be seen, it was all water. Of course the refugees did not agree, but there were arrests nearby. They did not dare to cause trouble even though the yamen guards were guarding them. Otherwise, they would not even be able to drink the rice soup. But the refugees had no choice but to receive the rice soup one by one. After drinking a bowl of rice soup, you can only smell the aroma of porridge, but not taste the porridge at all. Drinking cold water makes no difference at all, and even stuffing it between the teeth is not enough. Of course, this kind of rice soup cannot satisfy the hunger, and some refugees want to have an extra bowl. But as long as they dare to speak, they will be beaten and driven away. Hungry and skinny refugees, how can will he be a match for the strong yamen servant? Awesome, really awesome. Today really opened my eyes. There are always more solutions than difficulties, and the methods of corruption are really diverse. Xiao Wuji watched carefully from a distance, and the anger in his heart was burning, and it had already rushed to his chest. He just took a glance and already understood the intentions of the government and profiteers. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at Westlake. Chapter 203. Officials in Yangzhou had already colluded with profiteers. In order not to violate the imperial court's porridge-giving laws, the officials first cooked thick porridge for the refugees, and then gave it to profiteers to distribute the porridge. Through their operations, the disaster relief food distributed by the court will be massively withheld. It would be considered good if only 1% of the disaster relief food distributed by the imperial court could be distributed to the refugees. The withheld grain will be sold to grain stores at high prices to make huge profits. Grain merchants then sell the purchased grains at high prices and make a huge profit. Over and over again, corrupt officials and profiteers have made a lot of money, and the only victims are the people affected by the disaster. But how could these high-ranking corrupt officials and profiteers care about the lives of a group of refugees? Damn it! All deserve to die. Xiao Wuji jumped up from the horse and was in front of the policeman in an instant. With a slap in the face, the policeman's head immediately turned around his neck 3 times, and finally he fell down facing backward. Lu Captu. Seeing Lu Captu being killed, all the surrounding police officers were shocked and gathered around. One of the police officers pointed at Xiao Wuji and cursed, "Who are you? You dare to kill an official of the imperial court? Want to rebel?" Xiao Wuji glanced at the man expressionlessly, and said coldly, "The court official? What kind of imperial official is he? I just killed a dog. Also, who do you think you are? Dare you open your mouth to rebel or keep your mouth shut? Who gave you the courage to yell in front of me?" After the words fell, Xiao Wuji slapped him again with his backhand. The man's head turned several times like capped Lu, and there was another corpse on the ground. The remaining government servants were frightened and did not dare to go up again. "Come on." Then Xiao Wuji glanced at the many fast-moving government officials with cold eyes and said in a cold voice, "Cook the porridge again immediately. Make sure you insert chopsticks so that it doesn't fall over. Each person will be given 2 bowls. If you dare to violate the law, I will take your heads off right now." "Yes, yes, the villain doesn't dare, the villain doesn't dare, the villain will go right away." Looking at the token in Xiao Wuji's hand, all the police officers present were trembling with fear, and no one dared to disobey the order. The Jinyue are the emperor's personal soldiers, with a reputation for cruelty, and have always been famous for brutal killings. The Jinyue walked up to Hey, people will die wherever they go. Jinyue is almost synonymous with death. These little government servants are like ants in front of Jinyue. When the refugees saw that someone was making the decision for them, they all knelt down and cried, "We are saved, we are finally saved, thank you sir, call the shots for us. Great, I can finally fill my stomach. These dog officials all deserve to die, well done, well done." The thick porridge was cooked, and the refugees burst into tears after eating it, and a trace of life finally returned to their eyes. Xiao Wuji caught a policeman and asked in a cold voice, "Who asked you to give porridge to the people like this?" The policeman was so frightened that he trembled all over and stammered, I. Obviously, he didn't dare to say it. Although he was afraid of Xiao Wuji, he was also afraid of the officials in Yangzhou. Once he speaks out, he will inevitably be retaliated against. Xiao Wuji had no expression on his face and said coldly, "You still dare to resist at this time? Do you want to try Jinyue's methods? Cut in half, blast, or Ling Chi, you choose one. I don't mind torturing you first and then asking you to tell me." The policeman was so scared that he lost his mind and said tremblingly, "It's the county magistrate. It's the county magistrate who asked us to do this, chat. County magistrate, how dare a mere county magistrate be so bold?" Xiao Wuji obviously didn't believe it. "There is also Mr. Chang Shifeng and Mr. Governor." The policeman was so frightened that he told all the officials he knew. As Xiao Wuji guessed, most of the officials in Yangzhou were involved in this matter. The leader was naturally Wu Jiquan, the governor of Yangzhou. If he hadn't spoken, the officials below would never dare to do this. Xiao Wuji carried the policeman and shouted in a cold voice, "Take me to the governor's mansion." "Yes, yes, sir, please follow me." The police officer was almost scared to death. Of course he did not dare to disobey Xiao Wuji's order and hurriedly took Xiao Wuji to the governor's office. At the same time, in the governor's office, Yangzhou Governor Wu Jiquan, Chief Shi Fenghenian, County Magistrate Lin Yuxing and others, dozens of officials are all here. Along with them are many unscrupulous grain merchants in Yangzhou. The door of the room is closed, and they are discussing important matters here. On the main seat, Yangzhou Governor Wu Jiquan took a sip from his teacup and looked at the county. Lin Yuxing asked, "How are things going?" Lin Yuxing raised his hands and said respectfully, "Sir, everything has been settled, and the handover with shopkeeper Lu and shopkeeper Lin has been completed." As he spoke, Lin Yuxing looked at a grain merchant. This man had a fat head, big ears, a red face, and a round belly. He was the shopkeeper Lu mentioned by Lin Yuxing. He was also the largest grain dealer in Yangzhou. Shopkeeper Lu patted his big belly, laughed loudly, and said, "Thanks to the governor's care this time. Don't worry, sir, the food has been put into storage and the account books have been prepared. There will definitely be no loopholes left. When this batch of grain is sold, the villain will definitely not miss out on your adult's share." Wu Jiquan nodded and said calmly, "Well done. The food distributed by the court is for us officials. Those untouchables outside only deserve to eat dirt and drink water." Chang Shi Fenghenian said flatteringly, "What you are saying is that a group of untouchables, like ants, how can they be qualified to eat rice? Besides, if these refugees dare to rebel, they are already rebels, and they are even less qualified to eat food. If they are fed, the rebellion will be more powerful, and the one who will be threatened is His Majesty the Emperor. What Mr. Wu did today can be said to have removed a major worry for His Majesty. Mr. Wu is really loyal to His Majesty the Emperor, and I admire him greatly." Wu Jiquan was very satisfied with Fenghenian's flattery, and said righteously, "Master Feng is right, what I do today is all for the sake of His Majesty the Emperor, and for the eternal survival of the great Zhou dynasty. This group of despicable refugees, just can't be too nice to them, otherwise they will bite you in the face. When these untouchables all starve to death, the rebels will naturally disappear." Feng Henian stood up and saluted and said, "My lord, this plan can wipe out tens of thousands of rebels effortlessly. I really admire the lower officials." The rest of the officials and grain merchants also stood up and saluted, and flattered Wu Jiquan. It is said that officials are the parents of the people, but this group of officials headed by Wu Jiquan are all dog officials who eat people without spitting out their bones. The topics they are talking about now and the shameful expressions on their faces are all disgusting. What a good plan. At this moment, a cold voice sounded outside the door, which shocked Wu Jiquan, Fenghenian, and others. Just when they were about to speak, they heard a loud bang, the door to the room was smashed, and a figure broke through the door. Enter. Shopkeeper Lu, the grain merchant, was unlucky. He stood closer and was directly hit in the chest by the figure. He flew out hard and smashed the tea table behind him into pieces. "Ouch, which bastard hit me?" Shopkeeper Lu was beaten to a bloody head, with tea poured all over him. He whined and cursed. He had grown too fat, and his belly was bigger than that of a pregnant woman. It took a lot of effort to get up from the ground. At the same time, many officials headed by Wu Jiquan looked outside the door. They saw a figure standing outside the door. He was very young and handsome, but he had the majesty of a superior person. It was Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji was at this moment, his face was as cold as ice and murderous, and his cold eyes stared at many officials, making their scalps numb. Just outside the door, Xiao Wuji heard their conversation word for word. "Xiao Wuji, I never thought that there would be such shameless officials in the world. They were obviously taking bribes and lining their own pockets, but they were said to be righteous, and they said it was for the emperor and the eternal survival of the great Zhou dynasty. As expected, there is no most shameless person in the world, only more shameless ones. Who are you? You actually dare to force your way into the governor's mansion. Are you going to risk your life? Before Wu Jiquan spoke, the dog-legged Fenghenian stepped forward and questioned Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji glanced at many officials with cold eyes and said in a cold voice, I am Xiao Wuji, the Imperial Guard Qinhu, the 13th Taibao of the Great Zhou dynasty. His Majesty ordered us to come to Yangzhou to quell the rebellion. As soon as the word Jinyue came out, Wu Jiquan, Fenghenian and other officials were shocked and immediately felt suffocated with fear. You said you are a Jinyue, do you have proof? Fenghenian asked with courage. Xiao Wuji took out the Jinyue token and said indifferently, the Jinyue token is here, do you have any objections? Really Jinyue? It's over. Seeing Xiao Wuji taking out the Jinyue token, many officials were so frightened that they broke out in cold sweat and their legs were shaking. They all knew what they had done. Once the Jinyue found out, even 10 heads would not be enough to cut off. Wu Jiquan, he laughed dryly, took a step forward, bowed his hands and said, I'm going to be the governor of Yangzhou, Wu Jiquan. No, I can't bear the courtesy of you, a dog official. Xiao Wuji waved his hand. Wu Jiquan's face froze, and just when he was about to have a fit, he heard Xiao Wuji's voice, I was ordered to come to Yangzhou to quell the rebellion, but the rebels didn't see him. Instead, he saw a group of dirty and despicable people first. Shameless dressed beast. You guys, you bunch of dog officials, actually have the nerve to talk nonsense here and euphemistically call yourself the loyal emperor? It really made me laugh my teeth off. Corruption and bribery, enriching personal pockets, colluding with illegal grain dealers, and disregarding the lives and deaths of hundreds of thousands of innocent people. You are such a doggy officer, what should I do with you? Xiao Wuji's words revealed his murderous intent. Fenghenian, Lin Yuxing, and other officials were so frightened that their faces turned pale, and they all turned their attention to Wu Jiquan. Wu Jiquan was their backbone, and now only Wu Jiquan could save them. Wu Jiquan was deeply moved. Taking a breath, he took a step forward and said, Master Qinhu, what do you mean? I can't understand. Can't understand? I see that you are very clear in your heart. Wu Jiquan smiled as usual, I have always been upright and honest, benevolent and caring for the people. I have never engaged in corruption or bribery or enriched my own pockets. I wonder where Master Qinhu heard the rumors? There must be a misunderstanding about the official. Wu Jiquan was smiling, telling lies with his eyes open, and did not admit what he had done at all. Officials such as Fenghenian and Lin Yuxing immediately understood Wu Jiquan's plan. Although Xiao Wuji heard their conversation, there was no evidence. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 204. Although Xiao Wuji heard their conversation, he had no evidence. With empty words, how could Xiao Wuji be able to speak to so many of them with just one mouth? There is no proof, even if Xiao Wuji is a member of Qinhu Jinyue, he can't do anything to them. After thinking about this, Fenghenian, Lin Yuxing and other officials all breathed a sigh of relief and straightened their backs. Even if you are Jinyue, even if you heard our conversation, so what? Without evidence, there is nothing you can do against us. In an instant, many officials looked at Xiao Wuji with provocative and sarcastic looks. This is Yangzhou, our territory. Here the dragon wants to be coiled, and the tiger wants to lie down. Xiao Wuji looked at these confident officials and smiled sarcastically, his smile was very cold. Do you think I won't dare to kill you without evidence? Thinking too much. The Jinyue are the emperor's personal army, authorized by the imperial power, kill them first and then report them. If I want to kill you, I will kill you. Why do I need evidence? Before he finished speaking, Xiao Wuji took action boldly. He raised his hand and slashed, and the wind roared from his palm, passing over Wu Jiquan's neck in an instant. With a pop, a blood mark opened on Wu Jiquan's neck, and blood spurted 3 feet away, splashing on Feng Feng. He Nian and Lin Yuxing had expressions on their faces. Under everyone's frightened and stunned gazes, Wu Jiquan's head slowly fell to the ground and rolled to their feet. Wu Jiquan's eyes were still round and full of disbelief. He unexpectedly, Xiao Wuji really dared to kill him. Officials such as Feng Henian and Lin Yuxing also did not expect that Xiao Wuji really dared to kill him, and the person he killed was the governor of a state. Ah! Lord Wu is dead. Run, run. Feng Henian, Lin Yuxing, and other officials came to their senses and screamed. When Xiao Wuji raised his hand to grab it, the great shift of the universe unfolded, grabbing all the officials back and throwing them heavily on the ground. His palms instantly split 2 in 2. This time, another 7 or 8 officials were beheaded by Xiao Wuji. Still want to run away in front of me? Feng Henian, Lin Yuxing, and other officials all knelt on the ground, kowtowed and begged for mercy. Master Kinhu, have mercy on me, Master Kinhu, have mercy on me. I don't dare anymore. I don't dare anymore. It was Wu Jiquan who forced us to do this. It was all him. He is the mastermind. It's none of our business. Please spare our lives, Sinhu-sama. The dog-legged Feng Henian pointed at Wu Jiquan's headless body and put all the blame on him alone. Other officials also spoke in agreement. Master Feng is right, it was all what Wu Jiquan asked us to do. We didn't want to do it originally, but Wu Jiquan forced us to do it. We are forced to do so. Please spare my life, Lord Kinhu. A group of officials cried hoarsely, with snot and tears flowing from their noses. That look was so disgusting that it made Xiao Wuji sick. Relationships based on interests are indeed the most unreliable in the world. Previously, this group of officials used to treat Wu Jiquan, followed his lead and flattered everyone, treating him more respectfully than his biological father. But after Wu Jiquan died, these people immediately turned their guns and put all the blame on a dead man. Xiao Wuji killed many people. The 7 evils of Mobei and the 5 elders of the evil blood sect did not betray each other at the moment of life and death, but lived and died together. Compared with them, these officials who have read poetry and books are really hypocritical. Except for a group of officials, several grain merchants headed by shopkeeper Lu also knelt at Xiao Wuji's feet, trembling with fear. Xiao Wuji looked at these people and said coldly, immediately take out the withheld disaster relief grain and use it to relieve the people. And you, these unscrupulous grain dealers, will spit out whatever you eat. Now I am giving you the opportunity to make a crime and make meritorious service. This is also your last chance. If you cannot seize it, then you will all die in front of me. Did you hear that clearly? Listen clearly. Listen clearly. We must do what Sinhu-sama says. Feng Henian, Lin Yuxing, and other officials kowtowed like garlic, and shopkeeper Lu and others did not dare to refuse. The corpses of Wu Jiquan and others were still hot, and they did not want to follow in their footsteps. Why don't you hurry up and go to provide disaster relief? Xiao Wuji shouted violently, and all the officials and grain merchants fled. It's not that Xiao Wuji didn't want to kill them, but that he couldn't kill them now. If he killed these people, no one would do anything for him. When these people are drained, it was not too late for Xiao Wuji to kill them again. Xiao Wuji killed people to establish his prestige. The officials and grain merchants in Yangzhou were all honest and opened warehouses to release grain. For a while, the refugees in Yangzhou cheered. They finally saw that they could survive. Of course, letting the government open warehouses and release grain was not Xiao Wuji's main purpose. His ultimate goal was to quell the rebellion in northern Xinjiang. At night, Xiao Wuji stayed in the governor's mansion. In the room, Xiao Wuji sat cross-legged on the bed. There was an oil lamp burning on the table. Xiao Wuji closed his eyes and used his luck to circulate the true energy in his body, but his hearing was sensitive and he could control all the movements inside and outside the house. Suddenly, the flame of the oil lamp flashed, and a figure broke through the window. He entered and appeared in front of Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji opened his eyes, and the person in front of him immediately knelt down on one knee and saluted respectfully. Lu Gang from the 100 households of Jinyue came to see Master Qinhu. Is it you, Gang Lu? Xiao Wuji knew the Beihu in front of him. He was a subordinate of Qinhu Liba. Xiao Wuji had invited guests to banquets at Wanhua Tower several times before, and Lu Gang had attended all of them. Xiao Wuji looked at Lu Gang and said with a smile, I didn't expect you to come to take care of it. My official. Lu Gang smiled and said, my subordinates didn't expect that it was Xiao Qinhu who came. Because he was familiar with Xiao Wuji, Lu Gang spoke more relaxedly. Get up. Xiao Wuji said calmly, tell me more about the situation in northern Xinjiang. Lu Gang nodded and said solemnly, the rebellion of the refugees in northern Xinjiang is getting more and more intense. Now it has gathered more than 60,000 people, and the number is still increasing. They are distributed in the 3 states of northern Xinjiang. There are as many as 20,000 to 30,000 people and as few as hundreds or thousands. The armies of the 3 states have been dispatched, either to kill or suppress, or to suppress with iron blood, or to recruit with gentleness, and have used various methods to deal with this group of rebellious refugees. Initial results have been achieved, and the rebellious rebels have been temporarily suppressed. But half a month ago, the rebellious refugees suddenly came back and attacked Daesu city head-on, causing huge losses to Daesu. Our people found out that the reason why the refugees came back was all because of the secret instigation by the people of the Destiny section. Now the leaders of the refugee rebels are all members of the Destiny section. Those refugees are just pawns in the hands of the Destiny section. At this point, Lu Gang clenched his fists and veins popped out on his neck. He was obviously very angry with the people of the Destiny sect. The refugees just wanted to live, and they had no choice but to rebel. The imperial court had sent people to appease them, and relief money and food had also been allocated. Come down. As long as a group of corrupt officials are eliminated and relief money and food are distributed to the refugees, they will not rebel and the chaos in northern Xinjiang will be resolved. But the people of the Destiny sect obviously do not want the people of the imperial court to as they wished. They secretly spread rumors that the imperial court had a conspiracy, regardless of their life and death, and incited the refugees to riot, so that the rebellion became more and more intense. Lu Gang continued, after the Daesu rebellion, Master Zhou, the second Taibao, found the stronghold of the Tianming section where, he led us to raid the lair of the Destiny section. But I didn't expect that they were already prepared and had set up an ambush waiting for us. We had a big battle with the people from the Destiny sect, and both sides suffered casualties. Hong Qinhu died in that battle, and Lei Qinhu was also seriously injured. After hearing this, Xiao Wuji nodded slightly. Xiao Wuji had already known the news of Hong Zhenyi's death in battle, and now he still feels a little regretful when he thinks about it. But there is nothing that can be done about it. Jin Yiwei lives his life with his head in his hands. He licks blood from the edge of his knife. There will always be casualties. But Xiao Wuji already knows the key to the northern Xinjiang rebellion. As he thought, if he wants to quell the northern Xinjiang rebellion, he must eradicate the Destiny sect. As long as there are not these insidious villains around instigated from behind, the rebellious refugees were leaderless, and the imperial army could easily suppress them. Therefore, the key to quelling the rebellion was still killing people. Thinking about this clearly, Xiao Wuji smiled. He liked such simple and crude tasks. Xiao Wuji looked at Lu Gang, asked, where are the Jin Yiwei gathering now? Lu Gang replied, the Jinyi guards are gathering in Daesu. More than half of the rebel refugees are in Daesu, and the people of the Destiny sect are also wandering around Daesu. Our people have been inquiring about the whereabouts of the rebels of the Destiny section. The second eunuch wants to organize a new siege and will only wait for reinforcements from the Jin Yaiwei to arrive to completely wipe out the people of the Destiny section. Xiao Wuji nodded slightly, agreeing with Zhou Chunkai's approach in his heart. Capture the thief first, capture the king. Obviously Zhou Chunkai also saw the key to quelling the chaos. Let's do this, you take me to the Daesu assembly area. Xiao Wuji stood up and said, and put the swaying Quangdao on his waist. Lu Gang said, my lord, we have come all the way from Jinling. We are tired and exhausted, so why not take a rest first? It won't be too late for us to set off tomorrow. Xiao Wuji said, no need, the situation is urgent, we can't waste a moment. The sooner we arrive in Daesu, the sooner we can rescue the suffering people. If we delay for a night, we don't know how many civilians will die. Lu Gang had a look of reverence on his face, clasped his fists and said respectfully, my subordinates admire the kindness and love of Master Qinhu. Then, Xiao Wuji and Lu Gang took advantage of the night to leave Yangzhou City and rushed to Daesu overnight. Of course, before leaving, Xiao Wuji also warned officials such as Feng Henian and Lin Yuxing, telling them not to violate the law. If they were investigated by him, if there is any corruption, he will come back. The Yangzhou officials have been frightened by Xiao Wuji, so of course they dare not disobey, and they nod in agreement. The three states of Yangzhou, Dai, and Min in northern Xinjiang are not far apart. The sweaty BMW is running all the way. At noon on the second day, Xiao Wuji and Lu Gang arrived at the foot of Daesu City. Like Yangzhou City, the gates of Daesu City were closed tightly, and there were more troops guarding the outside. There were still traces of the battle on the city wall. Lu Gang he rode his horse forward and shouted to the top of the city gate, Master Xiao of the Qinhu of Jinyi Guards is here, open the city gate quickly. A head popped up from the tower and shouted towards Lu Gang below, do you have any proof? Daesu was attacked by rebels a few days ago. The spies have been caught very seriously in the past few days. They dare not let people into the city casually. Lu Gang immediately showed the Jin Yaiwei 100 household token, and Xiao Wuji also showed the 1000 household token. After seeing the token clearly, the soldiers upstairs showed a hint of awe and said quickly to adults, wait a moment, I will open the city gate right now. After saying that, he called a few soldiers to open the city gate. Xiao Wuji and Lu Gang rode into the city. The soldiers on both sides showed awe. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 205. Sir, let me take you to Sanhuizhuo. Lu Gang said. Good. Xiao Wuji nodded. Then Xiao Wuji and Lu Gang went to the Daesu Jinyi Guard Qinhu Station. The Qinhu Station is not unique to Jinling City, it exists in every major state. This also means that within the Great Zhou dynasty, every state all have at least one Qinhu of Jinyi Guards. However, Qinhu cannot be compared with the Qinhu of Nanbei Town Fuzi. The first is strength. In Jinling Nanbei Town Fuzi, except for the children of aristocratic families like Li Lin and Li Jingui, anyone who wants to be a Qinhu you must have the strength of the master level. But in other places, both the innate peak and the half-step master can serve as Qinhu. When he came to Daesu Qinhu, Xiao Wuji saw many familiar faces along the way. Without exception, these people they were all subordinates of Hong Zhenyi's and Lei Ba. Seeing Xiao Wuji's arrival, these Jinyi guards all bowed respectfully, see Xiao Qinhu. Hello Xiao Qinhu. Met Xiao Qinhu. Hello everyone. Xiao Wuji smiled and nodded to everyone, and went straight to the lobby. Daesu's local Jin Yaiwei didn't know Xiao Wuji, so he asked, who is this Lord Qinhu? Why do you seem to be afraid of him? 100 households said, we are not afraid, but respectful. Do you understand respect? Do you know who the adult was just now? His name is Xiao Wuji. 987 What, he is Xiao Wuji. You don't need to explain too much. You only need to say Xiao Wuji's name, and all the local Jinyai Wei in days who will know it. Of course they have heard of Xiao Wuji's name. He is at the top of the local rankings and was personally conferred by His Majesty the Emperor. The number one genius of the Zhou dynasty. The idol in the hearts of countless Jinyue. Every Jinyue hopes to be like Xiao Wuji one day, not only to be a member of 1,000 households, but also to be ranked first on the land list, and even be personally commended by His Majesty the Emperor, and even be knighted. I didn't expect that the person who came to support us would be Xiao Qinhu. Great, with Xiao Qinhu here, we can avenge Hong Qinhu. Those damn traitors from the Tianming sect, I will never let them go. The people who said this were originally Hong Zhenyi's subordinates. Hong Zhenyi died in the battle, and his subordinates were naturally angry. But with their strength, they were unable to avenge Hong Zhenyi. But now Xiao Wuji is here, and there will be a chance for revenge. They all know Xiao Wuji's strength and methods, so as soon as they see Xiao Wuji arrive, they are full of confidence and their morale is boosted. Xiao Wuji walked into the lobby and saw 6 people in the lobby. Individual. Sitting on the main seat was a middle-aged man with a long sword and a royal guard token hanging from his waist. He was clearly Zhou Chunkaiu, the second eunuch. Lei Ba was sitting on the right side of Zhou Chunkaiu, but he was wrapped in gauze and his face was a little pale. The serious injury has not healed. Seeing Xiao Wuji's arrival, Lei Ba showed a hint of joy and nodded to Xiao Wuji. Xiao Wuji did not recognize the other 4 people, but they, like Lei Ba, were more or less injured. Just looking at them with one glance, Xiao Wuji knew how tragic their previous battle was. No wonder Hong Zhenanhui died in the battle. Xiao Wuji came to Zhou Chunkaiu, cupped his fists and said Xiao Wuji, 1,000 households in Fuzi, Bijan, has seen Zhou Chunkaiu. 1,000 households. Under the orders of Yuan Qinhu, his subordinates came to support him, and reinforcements led by Jitebeo Fan Kaija arrived soon after. Zhou Chunkaiu nodded and said with a smile Xiao Qinhu came all the way. Thank you for your hard work. I am the second eunuch, and you are the 13th eunuch. If you like, please call me second brother. Yes, there is another brother on the head. Xiao Wuji rolled his eyes wildly in his heart. Every time he saw the new Tebeo, Xiao Wuji had to recognize his brother. This has almost become a habit. Xiao Wuji didn't have a mother-in-law, so he called him second brother. Zhou Chunkaiu nodded, pointed to the people present and said, let me introduce to you, these are Zhao Wuqing, Zhao Qinhu, Sun Lejun Qinhu, and Wang Das Han Wang Qinhu, Maralong Ma Qinhu. The last one, Lei Qinhu, needs no introduction from the second brother. Xiao Wuji looked at a few people, cupped his fists and said, you are all polite. Several Qinhu households have heard Xiao Wuji declare his family status and know that he is at the top of the land list. Therefore, they did not dare to rely on their old age in front of Xiao Wuji, and quickly returned the gift with fists clasped. Xiao Qinhu is polite. Zhou Chunkaiu looked at the crowd and said, everyone, please sit down. Wuji will also sit down. You came just in time. We are discussing the re-encirclement and suppression of the Tianming section. If you have any ideas, you can also put them forward. Xiao Wuji said, I've just arrived, and I don't know the details yet, so I won't comment. Everything is decided by the second brother, and the younger brother can just obey orders. Zhou Chunkaiu nodded, and then everyone discussed the encirclement and suppression of the Tianming sect. About an hour later, the meeting ended and everyone left. But Xiao Wuji did not leave. After confirming that everyone had left, Xiao Wuji said to Zhou Chunkaiu, "To brother, I heard Lu Gang tell you about your last action on the way here, and I knew whether to talk about it or not." Zhou Chunkaiu said with a smile, "13th brother, if you have something to say, say it directly. There is no need to be secretive. We are all grown men, there is no need to behave like little daughters." Xiao Wuji nodded, then just tell me. Second brother, there is a traitor among the Jinyi guards. As soon as these words came out, Zhou Chunkai's pupils shrank, but he didn't react much. Seeing him like this, Xiao Wuji knew that Zhou Chunkai had already guessed. The last time the Jinyi Wei attacked the Tianming sect, they were defeated and suffered heavy losses. Everything it's all because the Destiny sect has been well prepared and set up an ambush early to wait. Jinyi Wei's actions are top secret, and the news can never be leaked. The only possibility is that there is a traitor. The traitor informed the Destiny sect of Jinyi Wei's action plan in advance, so he acted will fail. Zhou Chunkai sighed and said, 13th brother, you have a sharp eye. Now that you have discovered it, second brother will not hide it from you. I've noticed the traitor a long time ago. It's just that during this period, I conducted overt and covert inspections and tested many times, but the traitor didn't show any clues. I really couldn't tell who the traitor was. The current suspects are only the 5 Kinhu who were present just now. After all, only Kinhu is qualified to know about my plan. Xiao Wuji shook his head and said Lei Ba should not be a traitor. He came from Fuzi, Bijan. He was temporarily sent to northern Xinjiang. It is impossible for him to be with Tianming. Teach collusion. Zhou Chunkai nodded and said, I also believe that Lei Ba is not a traitor, but I really can't see through the other 4 people. Zhao Wuqing and Sun Lai have both been with me for many years and have made countless contributions. Wang Dashan and Maralong are also old men who have been members of Jinyi Wei for more than 20 years. Without real evidence, it is really hard for me to believe that they are traitors. Although Zhou Chunkai is suspicious by nature and has a cold personality, he is cold-faced and warm-hearted. At heart, like Yuan Xiong, he is a very protective person. Regarding his old subordinates, he really does not want to suspect that they are traitors. But the traitor does exist, and this is irrefutable. Xiao Wuji doesn't know what to say about this. Because Xiao Wuji is not good at finding traitors. He just puts forward his own opinions. As for how to solve it, he still needs to. Zhou Chunkai makes his own decision. Xiao Wuji prefers to use violence to fight violence, so neatly. For example, when dealing with Li Lin, Li Dingshan, Li Wenbo, and others, Xiao Wuji never compromises, and slowly tests, once if you get the chance, just come to your door. The only thing you can do is hide your true identity. Report. At this moment, Lu Gang from the 100 households hurriedly came to Zhou Chunkai and reported respectfully to Sir Kinhu, news came from the city gate that the rebels have arrived 10 miles outside the city. What? Coming so fast? Zhou Chunkai was shocked when he heard this and quickly asked, can we find out how many rebels there are? Lu Gang reported back, according to the scouts in the army, the number of rebels is at least 30,000, and more will come later. If they are all gathered together, the total number of people may not be less than 50,000. 50,000 people. So much. It seems that they have gathered a large number of refugees in the past half-month. Zhou Chunkai's face was a little solemn. Daizhou is not an upper state, but a lower state, which is different from Hanzhou. The Hanzhou camp has 30,000 troops, and they are all well-trained veterans of hundreds of battles. But Daizhou's defenders only have 3,000 of people, and usually lack training. The fighting quality is very poor. And after the last war, there have been many casualties. Now I am afraid that even 2,000 troops are not available. With 2,000 soldiers fighting against 50,000 rebels, the difference in strength is at such a disparity. If the city wall of Daizhou is high enough and the location is favorable, we can defend the city. But the key is that the city wall of Daizhou is very short, making it easy to attack and difficult to defend. For such a city, even if the 50,000 rebels on the opposite side are only weak in combat power, the refugees, I'm afraid, can't defend themselves. After Xiao Wuji figured this out, he couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. You are really weak and I am weaker, it just depends on who is the weakest. Xiao Wuji didn't know if he had the chance to encounter such a war. What should I say? At this time, Lei Bie, Zhao Wuking, Sun Lai, and other thousands of households also hurried over. Obviously, they also learned the news of the rebel attack. Mr. Second Taibao, the rebels are approaching. Is there any way to retreat? Zhao Wuking was the first to ask. Before Zhou Chunkaiu could speak, Sun Lai said first, why don't we ask for help from Yangzhou and Minzhou? Each of these two cities has 3,000 troops. If we can help defend the city, we can still save Days Hu. Although the rebels numbered 50,000, they were all refugees and did not know the battle formations. Their individual strength was very weak and they were just pretending, and they had no food and grass. 4.6. We have 9,000 people defending the city. As long as we hold on for 3 days, the rebels will naturally retreat. I have to say that Sun Lai's plan is feasible. If reinforcements arrive, there is still hope to save Days Hu. But Zhou Chunkaiu refused. Zhou Chunkaiu shook his head and said, although Yangzhou and Minzhou are very close to us, the rebels are closer to us. It's too late to call for help now. Besides, what if the defenders of Yangzhou and Minzhou all come out and the rebels turn around and attack these two states? What if they implement the tactic of encircling a point and calling for reinforcements, but what if they intercept and kill the reinforcements halfway? Sun Lai frowned and said, it's just a group of refugees who can't even recognize the words. They don't know tactics, right? Zhou Chunkaiu said the refugees don't know, but the people of the Destiny sect know. The Destiny sect was founded more than 300 years ago. During these 300 years, they were either rebelling or on their way to rebel. They have read many more military books than you have seen on martial arts secrets. Not to mention others, let's just say that the rebel leaders of the Destiny sect who disguised themselves as refugees are definitely good at leading troops in war. Sun Lai stopped talking after listening. Zhou Chunkaiu's consideration was reasonable. If the people of the Destiny sect really planned this, then they would have been passive. At this time, Xiao Wuji spoke, since we can't solve the rebels, it's better to solve them. The rebel leader is ready. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 206. As long as the leader of the Tianming cult rebels who knows tactics and tactics is eliminated, the rebels will be leaderless. When the time comes, there will be no one to command them, let alone attack the city. I am afraid it will be difficult to even gather together, and they will naturally collapse. Blue Star in his previous life had a saying that all problems can be transformed into mathematical problems. In Xiao Wuji's case, all problems can be transformed into murder problems. Since the problem cannot be solved, then solve the person who caused the problem. Zhou Chunkaiu's eyes lit up, he looked at Xiao Wuji and said, do you want to capture the thief first and capture the king first? Xiao Wuji said, I prefer to call it beheading tactics. As long as the rebel leader can be successfully killed, the rebels will naturally collapse without a fight. This is the same reason why we want to destroy the Destiny section. Since the Destiny sect cannot be destroyed now, it would be a good idea to eliminate a group of their minions first, just to collect interest. The more Zhou Chunkaiu listened, the more he felt that this plan was feasible. Why didn't he think of it before? It's true that a wise man will make a mistake after thinking a lot. But the rebels are so numerous that it is not an easy task to find and kill the leader in the army. Qinhu. Maralong said with a solemn expression. Good. Wang. Das Han next to him nodded and said the refugee rebels are not worth mentioning, but there are many masters of the Destiny section. Once trapped in the encirclement, I am afraid that there will be no chance of death. And now everyone is still injured, Their injuries have not healed, and their combat power has not returned to its peak. Everyone was hesitant. Xiao Wuji's plan was good, but it was too dangerous. As soon as he heard this beheading tactic, he knew it was a small-scale operation, and the ones leading Team 02 must be these Qinhu. But Wang Dashan and Marolong, it's different. They are all in the realm of half-step masters, and they are thousands of households in Xiaoshu. If they are not strong enough, they have insufficient confidence. The half-step masters are surrounded and killed by the masters of the Destiny sect. In a sense, Xiao Wuji's strategy, there is no difference between letting them die. Everyone looked at Zhou Chunkaiu, waiting for his order. Zhou Chunkaiu glanced at everyone and said only 8 words: be loyal to the country and die without regrets. Every word is sonorous and powerful, and it speaks loudly. Tonight, I will personally lead a team to assassinate the rebel leader of the Destiny section. I must kill all those rebels who have tempted the people to rebel. If any of you are scared and want to retreat, you can stand up now. Zhou Chunkaiu's eyes were cold, and he glanced at everyone. No one spoke. This is not a discussion with you. Zhou Chunkaiu's words are orders. To retreat at this moment is to flee from the battlefield. Zhou Chunkaiu has the right to kill the deserters on the spot. Everyone shouted in unison, be loyal to your country and die without regrets. Ah, very good. Zhou Chunkaiu nodded solemnly. It was late at night, and the rebels were no longer 10 miles away, but camped under Daesu city. As long as it dawns tomorrow, they can attack the city. There are many torches on the city wall, and the light was as bright as day. Each of the defending soldiers looked at the rebel camp below, looking a little panicked. They all secretly regretted not training hard at ordinary times, so that it was too late to improvise. Who would have thought that the enemy was not attacking Daesu? The army was a group of refugees. Zhou Chunkaiu took Xiao Wuji, Lei Bie, and other 6,000 households, and more than 300 households out of the city quietly. After leaving the city, everyone divided into 7 teams. Sneaked in from 7 directions. The rebel camp. Xiao Wuji did not take anyone with him to act, and no one was holding him back. It was more efficient for him to act alone. To be honest, Xiao Wuji had never seen such a dilapidated military camp. The so-called soldiers in the military camp were all refugees. They didn't wear armor, only tattered linen clothes. They slept during the vigil, and there was no discipline or vigilance at all. The weapons in their hands were not swords and spears, but tools such as hoes, hatchets, or iron forks. Some people even just held long sticks, shovels, or bamboo poles that can be seen everywhere on the roadside. These people were all yellow-faced, skinny, and had only half their lives left. Xiao Wuji looked at these so-called rebels and felt in his heart it was very unpleasant, and for the first time I felt compassion. He prided himself on being ruthless and killing people without blinking an eye. Killing hundreds or thousands of people at one time was nothing to Xiao Wuji, and there was no psychological burden at all. But if he was asked to do it to Xiao Wuji really couldn't bear to kill this group of displaced refugees. These refugees rebelled because they couldn't survive. They themselves were not guilty. The guilty ones were the emperor, the corrupt officials, and the traitors of the Destiny section this world. Dog Emperor, damn it! Following the old rules, Xiao Wuji mentally pulled out the Dog Emperor and scolded him. With a shudder, Xiao Wuji sneaked into the camp quietly, and no one noticed his whereabouts along the way. The Tianming cult rebels. The location of the leader must not be among these refugees, so Xiao Wuji has nothing to search. As they get closer to the center of the camp, the quality of the refugee rebels is getting better and better. The refugees here are not holding hoes and hatchets, but swords and swords. The energy on their faces is also better than that of the sallow-looking refugees on the periphery, and they are all strong and strong. In the core of the camp, there are several very formal and luxurious tents. The guards here are all soldiers wearing armor, swords hanging on their waists, and spears in their hands. They have eyes and ears in all directions, and are always paying attention to every move around them. There are also groups of soldiers patrolling back and forth. If there is any trouble, they will be reported immediately. Discovery. Obviously, these people are not refugees, but soldiers, all of whom are veterans who have experienced hundreds of battles. If Xiao Wuji guessed correctly, these soldiers are believers of the Destiny sect. And what they are guarding is naturally the Destiny section rebel leader. Finally found. In the dark shadow, a cold light flashed in Xiao Wuji's eyes, and it disappeared in an instant. Then he turned around, and Xiao Wuji also disappeared. In a camp, lights it was bright. A general in armor was drinking heavily. He had a Chinese character face, full of flesh, and a beard that stood up like steel needles. In his arms was a beautiful woman. The woman's face was full of panic. Her face was pale. She was disgusted and afraid of men's hands and feet, but she didn't dare to avoid it. She could only endure it, trembling with fear. She was just the daughter of an ordinary family, fleeing with her parents. On the way to escape, her mother starved to death first, and her father was captured by the rebel refugees together with her. During the arrest, her father was beaten to death by the rebels. Because she was quite pretty, she was brought as a sacrifice. This so-called leader of the rebels. This man was her father-killing enemy, but she could not avenge her. Instead, she had to work as a bully for her enemy and let her bully her. The woman felt desperate and shed tears from the corners of her eyes. Cry, 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 why are you crying? When the big man saw the woman crying, he immediately became angry. He pushed the woman to the ground and yelled, "Bitch, am I not treating you well? I fed you, clothed you, and gave you a second life. If it weren't for me, you would have starved to death long ago, and your body would have been eaten by those untouchables. I saved you, so forget it if you are not grateful. You still look like your parents are dead every day. Who can show it to you? Come here." The big man roared angrily, and the woman trembled with fright. She didn't dare to resist. She wiped away her tears and walked over respectfully. The woman was just a weak woman with no strength. How could she disobey this big man? The big man saw the woman like this. Moved his index finger, a wicked smile appeared on his face, and he immediately wanted to do whatever he wanted. But at this moment, a cool breeze suddenly blew across his cheek. The next second, the big man's eyes bulged, and his eyeballs almost flew out of his sockets. With that, with a muffled groan, a stream of blood flowed from the corner of the big man's mouth, and then his body collapsed and turned into a corpse. He died, but he didn't know who killed him until he died. The traitor who has committed many evil deeds deserves to die. Xiao Wuji looked at the corpse on the ground, his eyes cold and full of disgust. The woman was stunned, looking at the young man who suddenly appeared in front of her and the corpse on the ground, unable to say a word. She had never thought about it. Someone would actually come to save her. After falling into this endless hell, she had no idea of escape. "It's okay, you can take a nap first." Xiao Wuji smiled at the woman, then pointed at the woman's sleeping point, put her on his shoulders, and took her away quietly. Since he saw it, he would save it if he could. Otherwise, he would save her. When the leader's body was discovered, the woman would not be able to escape the blame and would die miserably. Xiao Wuji took the woman and left silently. No one on guard or patrolling outside Camp 410 noticed that their general had dead. Hiding the woman in a hidden safe place, Xiao Wuji sneaked into the military camp again. At this time, Lei Bie, Zhao Yuqing, Wang Dashan, and others had also begun to take action. However, their actions were not as good as Xiao Wuji's. It was so secretive that when there was a noise during or after the killing, it was already discovered by the people of the Destiny section. There were shouts of beating and killing in the military camp, and the flames shot into the sky. Rebels from all over the place gathered and started to surround and suppress a few people. The commotion was loud enough, but this was fine. A quick kill would also let the people of the Destiny sect know how powerful they were. Xiao Wuji hid in the dark, watching several people being chased, with a grim smile on his lips. Although the beheading operation was a covert operation, it was essentially an assassination. But it is not impossible for the assassination to turn into an open killing. At this moment in the camp, there should not be many masters in the Destiny sect. They may be a threat to Lei Ba, Wang Das Han, Maralong, and others, but Xiao Wuji is not a threat to him. Wow! With a flash of lightning, Xiao Wuji emerged from the darkness and joined the rebels. In the middle, the electric light shot into the crowd, and immediately overturned a group of soldiers. The swords flashed out in a horizontal direction, killing hundreds of rebels. They screamed repeatedly, and their broken limbs flew around. These rebels are not refugees from the periphery. They are all members of the Destiny sect, or violent refugees with human blood on their hands. Maybe some people were innocent at first, but now they are no longer innocent. For such people, Xiao Wuji kills them without any mercy. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Wuji killed 2 centurions, and hundreds of people died tragically under his sword. It's Xiaoqianhu is here to support us. Xiaoqianhu is so strong, he deserves to be the top expert on the Earth ranking. This is Xiao Wuji, and he truly deserves his reputation. Whether it's Qinggong or sword skills, they are far better than me. Zhao Wuqing, Sun Lai, and other thousands of households suddenly showed joy when they saw Xiao Wuji coming. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 207. Xiao Wuji's killing efficiency alone was higher than all of them combined, which greatly reduced their pressure. Xiao Wuji's crazy killing spree made the surrounding soldiers bold and timid, afraid to step forward. At this moment, a leader from behind the army shouted, "Kill them, don't let them go. There are so many of us, we can pile them up to death." The order was issued, and the surrounding soldiers roared in unison, and started to kill Xiao Wuji and others again, and the surrounding troops were also approaching quickly. "Damn it, you dare to break into the military camp? I won't let any of you leave today." The leader at the rear was still talking nonsense and swearing. But little did he know that his loud voice became his talisman, allowing Xiao Wuji to spot his presence among the army at a glance. A shocking glance. Xiao Wuji locked eyes on the leader's position with cold eyes, flew up in the air, and slashed through the sky with Shui Yin's Kuangdao, slashing down at him. This move was a shocking glance of Ao Han's 6 techniques. Kang. The 40-meter huge sword energy crushing down, the general was instantly crushed into blood mist, leaving no bones left. Wherever the sword energy passed, the ground exploded, and all the soldiers along the way were cut into pieces and died. The surrounding soldiers were also exploded by the sword energy. The real energy was thrown away and flew out like a torn sack. The bones were broken and blood spurted out. When the smoke and dust dissipated, there were no soldiers in front of Xiao Wuji. There were only a huge knife mark several inches deep. Good. Good kill. Xiaoqianhu is mighty. Seeing Xiao Wu's great power, Lei Ba became excited and couldn't help but cheer loudly. Then he glanced at the many rebels who were killed and sneered disdainfully, "You deserve to die. Don't be presumptuous, I'm here." Just when the rebels were scared to retreat, a roar suddenly came from the night sky. Whoosh! The black shadow flashed, and a figure quickly approached from a distance and came to Xiao Wuji and others. As expected, what came was an old man with white beard and hair. However, there was no kindness and harmony on this old man's face, only viciousness and ferocity. His eyes were fixed on Xiao Wuji, full of murderous intent. "Xiaoqianhu, be careful, this person is the law enforcement elder of the Destiny sect, and Hongqianhu died in the hands of this person." Behind him, Maralong shouted a warning. But as soon as he finished speaking, Maralong suddenly froze and shut up quickly, looking a little embarrassed. Because Lei Bia, Zhao Wuqing, and Sun Lai were all looking at him as if they were a fool. Maralong he just blurted out in a hurry, but now he has reacted. The person standing in front of him is not an ordinary Qinhu, but Xiao Wuji, the #1 master in the current Earth rankings. Without the Grand Master, Xiao Wuji is #1 in the world. What's more, Xiao Wuji is the #1 in the world. Wuji had personally killed a powerful Grand Master. Although the law enforcement elder of the Destiny sect was strong, he could not be Xiao Wuji's opponent. When Xiao Wuji heard that this man had killed Hong Zhenyi's, his face instantly darkened and became extremely cold. Although Hong Zhenyi's had some misunderstandings with him at first, after the two reconciled, their relationship was still very good. You were the one who killed Qinhu of my Jinyue. Xiao Wuji looked at the old man in front of him coldly, as if he could see his heart through his body. The old man smiled coldly. "Gg, I have killed thousands of Jinyue households, who knows which one you are talking about? How? Do you want to avenge him? I don't mind sending you down to reunite with him." Gg. The old man laughed strangely a few times and his attitude was very arrogant. Xiao Wuji did not say anything, but gently raised the snow-drinking mad saber in his hand. Clang! The sword struck down with anger, and the 40-meter giant sword energy reappeared in the mortal world, facing the old man head-on. Split down. The old man smiled ferociously, his whole body emitted dazzling golden light, and his clothes exploded, revealing a diamond-like body. Bang! A bell sounded throughout the night, and a huge golden bell appeared out of thin air, covering the old man. Buddhism Golden Bell Shield. This old man actually cultivates the Buddhist Golden Bell Shield, and judging from his level, he has already achieved it. No wonder this old man dares to be so arrogant. The Buddhist Golden Bell Shield of Dachan has unparalleled defense, and few people under the Great Master can break it. This let's not mention the old man's offensive power, but his defensive power is definitely the best among the masters. As long as his golden bell cannot be broken, the old man will be invincible. However, the old man was a little wrong. He faced it was no one else, but Xiao Wuji. What he faced was not an ordinary sword, but the Suiyan Mad Saber. The sword flashed across the sky, and the sword energy struck the golden bell cover heavily, making a loud noise in an instant. The old man glared, his eyes were widened and his expression was distorted, full of horror and disbelief. Because the golden bell that he thought had unparalleled defense was in front of Xiao Wuji's sword energy, it didn't even hold on for a moment, and it shattered. Split the golden bell. The power of the sword energy did not weaken at all, and hit the old man's body hard. With a bang, the old man was directly chopped into a blood mist, and no bones were left. You haven't mastered the Buddhist golden bell yet. Even if you practice to a perfect state, how can you be my opponent in Aohan 6 arts? Xiao Wuji turned over and landed on the ground, looking at the place where the old man disappeared, his eyes were cold. Let alone Dachan's golden bell, even the 12-fold perfect golden bell, Xiao Wuji didn't take it seriously. Okay, Xiao Qinhu killed well. This old man should have died long ago. Finally avenged Hong Qinhu. Behind Xiao Wuji, Lei Bia clenched his fists and cheered loudly. He and Hong Zhenyi's came to northern Xinjiang together, but Hong Zhenyi's died here. The most angry and unwilling person was naturally Lei Bia. Now Xiao Wuji finally it's to avenge Hong Zhenyi's. He's dead, the law enforcement elder is dead, run away. No, you can't run, you must kill them and avenge the law enforcement elders. If I don't kill these royal guards, I won't die in peace. Kill, we still have tens of thousands of troops, I don't believe we can't crush them. We must let their bones be buried here tonight. The members of the Destiny sect roared loudly. Although there were cowards who fled because of fear, most of them were ruthless people who wanted to kill Xiao Wuji for revenge. A great sect that inspired rebellion and has been passed down for more than 300 years. The people in the religion are indeed very courageous. There are not many who are greedy for life and afraid of death. The one who has been destined by destiny, chooses the emperor on behalf of heaven, guides people to do good, and makes the world unified. The one who has been destined by destiny, chooses the emperor on behalf of heaven, guides people to do good, and makes the world unified. The one who has been destined by destiny, chooses the emperor on behalf of heaven, guides people to do good, and makes the world unified. The members of the Destiny sect began to shout in unison the teachings of the Destiny sect, which have the power to confuse people's hearts. As the sound spread, the ruthless man who was not afraid of death more and more. Xiao Wuji knows that these people have been brainwashed. They firmly believe that what they are doing is right and is their destiny. Even if they die tonight, they are making history and they died well. History will remember them, future generations will praise them. Their names will remain in history and be praised by future generations. Crazy, these people are crazy. Lei Ba's face changed drastically. Zhao Wuqing, Sun Lai, Maralong and other thousands of households were also worried. The people of the Destiny sect are indeed a bunch of lunatics. How could they kill so many people? Lei Ba and others are already covered in blood. Most of the blood belongs to the enemy, but some of it is their own. They were originally injured, and then they were besieged and killed by the rebels. At this time, the new injuries are added to the old ones, and their combat power is no longer enough. 50%. Archers, shoot. Suddenly there was a roar from behind the army, and in an instant thousands of arrows were fired. Countless arrows pierced the night, shimmering with cold light, pouring down like heavy rain, shooting towards Xiao Wuji and others. The dense arrows were like flying locusts, covering the sky and the sun, have blocked all escape routes for Xiao Wuji and others. Faced with this kind of mass killing, even the masters with true energy to protect their bodies can't save their lives. After several rounds of arrows, the master's protection, the body's energy will be shot into a sieve. Everyone, be careful. Lei Ba roared angrily, and quickly grabbed a few corpses nearby and blocked them in front of him. Zhao Wuqing, Sun Lai, Maralong, and others also followed the same example. If the body protecting aura cannot be blocked, they can only block it with corpses. Although the corpse cannot stop it, under double defense, the possibility of saving life can be greatly increased. Facing the rebels' volley of thousands of arrows, Xiao Wuji did not dodge, but sheathed his sword. With a flash of lightning, Xiao Wuji he had already flown into the air and was approaching the incoming arrow quickly. At this moment, an endless stream of internal energy surged out from Xiao Wuji's dantian and penetrated the meridians of his body. The terrifying true yuan qi spurted out and gathered around Xiao Wuji's body. Finally condensed between the palms of the hands. The world has shifted greatly. Xiao Wuji roared angrily, and the terrifying true energy swept out, sweeping across the surrounding area and causing ripples in the void. The countless arrows that were shot were all fixed in mid-air by Xiao Wuji's true essence, and they could not move forward even an inch. Return it to you. Xiao Wuji clasped his hands round, pushed out with both palms, and all the arrows reversed their direction and shot back. Moreover, the arrows, coerced by Xiao Wuji's true energy, shot back faster than when they came. No. Impossible. Impossible. The rebel leaders of the Destiny sect in the rear looked at the countless arrows that were shot back. Their expressions were dull and their eyes were lifeless. They could not accept this reality. The arrow array was obviously used to massacre the Jin Yiwei, but at this moment it became their reminder. Run! Someone shouted, and countless rebels began to flee in all directions. But no matter how fast they ran, they could not escape the arrows falling from the sky. Whoosh! 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 Well done, ah! When the arrows fell, the rebels fell down like wheat, and a large number of them died instantly. Many more fell and were trampled to death. In order to escape for their lives, the soldiers in the rear even started to kill the soldiers in the front, and I don't know how many people died. General, run away. One of the guards wanted to drag a leader away, but the leader was scared out of his wits and his mind went blank. He looked at the countless arrows falling from the sky and the corpses on the ground, and he had forgotten to escape. Whoosh! One arrow. The arrow made a sharp whistling sound, instantly hitting the leader's head between the eyebrows, and then passed through his head. The leader's body collapsed with a crash, his eyes were still open, and he died with no eyes open. Several rebel leaders of the Destiny sect were killed by Xiaoji with arrows. The power of the full-level universe shift was finally revealed at this moment, harvesting hundreds or even thousands of lives in an instant. Huh! Xiaoji fell from the sky, turned over and landed on the ground, letting out a long breath. Thousands of households including Lei Bie, Zhao Yuqing and others were stunned. In addition to being shocked, they are still shocked. In addition to being shocked, they are still shocked. Xiaoji's strength is so strong that they can't imagine. Is a half-step Grand Master really that strong? Xiaoji must have broken through to the Grand Master realm, right? There is absolutely no such strong half-step Grand Master in the world. Genius. Monster. Lei Bie and others can no longer find words to describe Xiaoji at this moment. Ah! You little beast, you deserve to die. At this moment, a roar suddenly came. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 208. You little beast, you deserve to die. At this moment, a roar suddenly came. Xiaoji followed the sound and saw a figure approaching quickly in the distance. Before the person arrived, a ball of flame had already exploded. A fire dragon shot out of the fireball and headed towards Xiaoji. Bites it. The fire dragon is transformed from the purest true energy. Wherever it goes, the earth explodes, and the scorching heat instantly sweeps across the surrounding area. He is a powerful master. Xiaoji judged at a glance that the person who came was a real Grand Master. However, Xiaoji did not pay attention to such a level of killing move. Xiaoji was about to draw his sword, but saw a sword light shooting from a distance. Coming. The speed of the sword light was twice as fast as the fire dragon's attack speed. The second strike hit the fire dragon's head hard. Tisk. With a flash of sword light, the fire dragon immediately split into two and turned into flames following the wind. Dissipated. The remaining power of the sword light disappeared, hitting a tent, splitting the tent into pieces, and leaving a deep sword mark on the ground. Whoosh! 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 A figure teleported over, leaving after images in the air. Landed in front of Xiaoji, and protected him behind him. The person who came was surprisingly Zhou Chunkaiu, the second eunuch. Ningbaiu, if you want to kill my Jin Yaiwei in front of me, you don't take me seriously. Zhou Chunkaiu looked at the great master of the Fate sect and said coldly. Ningbaiu. Fire Dragon King Ningbaiu. As soon as the name Ningbaiu was uttered, intelligence information about Ningbaiu automatically appeared in Xiaoji's mind. Ningbaiu was born into a famous family and was not a member of the evil section. He was the orthodox heir of the Ning family, a martial arts family in the south of the Yangtze River. It's just that. Ningbaiu was born in a famous family. Many years ago, the Ning family was brutally exterminated by the Jinyan section. 189 members of the Ning family were killed. Only Ningbaiu, who was hidden under the pit, escaped. He disappeared completely, kept his name anonymous, and practiced martial arts day and night. Finally avenged his bloody revenge 20 years ago. He slaughtered all his enemies, the Jinyan sect, and hung the corpses upside down on the beams one by one, letting the crows bite the flesh and blood of the corpses. After the slaughter of the Jinyan sect, the corpses of the Jinyan sect lay everywhere. The fields were filled with blood. It was rumored that the bloody smell of the Jinyan sect would not dissipate for 3 months. The sky was densely covered with blood crows, covering the sky and the sun. The viewers were all shocked and chilled physically and mentally. This is the Jinyan sect murder case that has been circulated in the world for a long time. Although this 20 years have passed since the murder, but the mention of this murder still makes countless warriors tremble. When warriors hear Ningbaiu's name, they are frightened. However, there are rumors in the world that Ningbaiu is alone and has always been a casual cultivator. No one expected that Ningbaiu would actually be a member of the Destiny sect. And as a strong master, Ningbaiu's status in the Destiny sect is definitely not low. Ningbaiu, you are also a great master of martial arts. Why do you want to associate with the rebels of the Destiny sect? Little do they know that this world belongs to the great Zhou dynasty. Those who dare to rebel against heaven will be tortured by Lingqi, and their souls will be trapped in the 9 netherworld, and they will never be reincarnated. Zhou Chunkaiu looked at Ningbaiu and shouted angrily, his words like thunder. Cold murderous aura erupted, and countless sword energies swept around him. The great master's pressure exploded out without leaving a trace. Ningbaiu stood with his hands behind his back, his face expressionless. His expression said the general trend of the world is that if we divide for a long time, we will unite, and if we unite for a long time, we will unite. Emperor Jingtai was stupid and immoral, which caused the people of Li to suffer greatly. What else does such an emperor do? He should have died long ago. I, the Heavenly Mandate sect, have returned to the Heavenly Mandate to choose the emperor on behalf of heaven. The true Dragon Emperor has been born. It is the way of heaven to replace the great Zhou dynasty. The way of heaven? What is the way of heaven? Zhou Chunkaiu said sternly, the power of kings is granted by God. What I, the emperor of Zhou dynasty, do and say are the ways of heaven. You are not destined by destiny, you are just a group of rebellious ministers and traitors. Everyone should be punished. Ha 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 ha. Ningbaiu looked up to the sky and smiled. Zhou Chunkaiu, you don't have to talk nonsense here, I don't believe a word of it. How can a court eagle like you understand the destiny of the Heavenly Mandate sect? Zhou Chunkaiu raised his sword, let out a sword cry, and said in a cold voice, you are right, there is really nothing to say to rebellious officials and traitors like you. Let my sword speak to you. After the words fell, Zhou Chunkaiu swung his sword diagonally from bottom to top. The sword energy shot out, tearing the earth apart, and went straight to Ningbaiu's chest. This sword seemed to disembowel Ningbaiu and chop him open in half. Such a weak sword energy is not enough to see. Ningbaiu laughed loudly, raised his big hand, and the palm of his palm was blazing with fire. With one palm strike, he instantly shattered the flying sword energy. At the same time, the force of his palm broke through the air, and the remaining power was not reduced, and it went straight to Zhou Chunkaiu's neck. Head. 7 suns shining through the sun. Zhou Chunkaiu jumped up, flew into the air, and turned sideways quickly. The sword in his hand made a faint sound of thunder, and the shadow of the sun appeared. The sword light flashed, and 7 sword energy flew out at the same time, defeating Ningbaiu. The flame palm power blocked all Ningbaiu's escape routes at the same time. Weak. 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 Vulnerable. Ningbaiu clasped his hands round, and brought them together. The raging fire turned into a fire dragon and rose into the sky. The fire dragon flew into the sky, roared loudly, and collided with the 7 sword energies. There was a loud bang, the earth exploded, and the true energy poured out violently. The aftermath set off strong winds and waves, rushing in all directions. Lei Bie, Zhao Wuqing, Maralong, and others quickly retreated and fled quickly. The rebels had also been scared away by this terrifying fight. In addition, the leader of the Tianming sect rebels, Shi without Kunyi, the refugee rebels were leaderless and had completely collapsed. The number of refugees who fled under the cover of night was unknown. Xiao Wuji stepped aside to watch the battle and did not intervene in the battle. This was Zhou Chunkai's battle, and Xiao Wuji could not intervene casually. Strong Grand Masters all have their own arrogance and will never admit that they are weaker than others. If Xiao Wuji helped Zhou Chunkaiu, it would be a slight to Zhou Chunkaiu. Besides, he is still a half-step Grand Master on the surface. A true Grand Master like Ningbiu cannot adopt a frontal approach and must attack from behind. This Ningbiu did have a few tricks up his sleeve. Xiao Wuji watched the battle from the side, nodding secretly in his heart. Zhou Chunkai's strength has been fully demonstrated in this battle. Looking at the strength of his true energy, his current realm is great. Mid-Grand Master. Such strength is almost the same as that of the third Taibao Yuan Xiong. And Ningbiu's current strength is also in the mid-Grand Master, only slightly weaker than Zhou Chunkaiu. Xiaoqianhu, what should we do now? Do you want to help Zhouqianhu? Lei Ba came behind Xiao Wuji and asked in a low voice. Zhao Wuqing, Marolong and others also looked at Xiao Wuji, waiting for his orders. Zhou Chunkaiu was not here at the moment, and Xiao Wuji was the strongest, so they naturally regarded Xiao Wuji as his. Xiao Wuji calmly shook his head and said, "You are not allowed to participate in the battle between the great masters. If you come forward, I am afraid that you will be killed by sword energy or palm power in an instant, and your body will be shattered into pieces. You all retreat further, I will stay and wait for the opportunity." Lei Ba and others looked at each other and agreed with Xiao Wuji's statement. As Xiao Wuji said, their strength is too weak to help at all, and staying will only add chaos. With their means and abilities, even sneak attacks Ningbiu didn't even have a chance. Boom! 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 The powerful master moved very quickly, but in the blink of an eye, Zhou Chunkaiu and Ningbiu exchanged dozens of moves. The two of them fought from the core of the military camp to on the periphery. All the camps along the way were destroyed, leaving a mess everywhere. Sword chi flew out one after another, and palm power poured down, detonating the earth again and again. Every sword chi and palm power could easily hit Grandmaster Killer. Zhou Chunkaiu, there is nothing you can do about me. If we continue to fight, we will only suffer losses for both sides. Ningbiu roared loudly, and his whole body was enveloped in flames, like a burning man. Zhou Chunkaiu held a sharp sword, and his whole body was filled with sword energy and murderous intent. He shouted coldly, "Every traitor appears in front of me, and there is no one can leave alive. You have never seen my methods before, Ningbiu, tonight is the day of your death, suffer death." The scorching sun sets a prairie fire. Zhou Chunkaiu soared into the sky with the sword across the sky. The sword in his hand suddenly emitted a dazzling light, like a big sun in the sky, completely illuminating the dark night. The powerful true energy poured in and turned into a giant 60-meter-long sword energy. Slashed hard at Ningbiu. When Ningbiu saw the killing move coming, he did not dodge, but laughed loudly. "Well done, Qianqian Fiery Palm." Ningbiu violently destroyed the true energy in his body, and all of it surged out and gathered on his palms. He held his palms together, yin and yang combined, and then slapped both palms out at the same time. Roar! A large flame burst out, forming a giant flame dragon, and Zhou Chunkaiu's sword energy met face to face. There was a boom. The killing moves collided, and they both exploded at the moment of collision. But true energy swept out, sending Zhou Chunkaiu and Ningbiu flying at the same time. However, the outcome has been decided. Ningbiu is indeed weaker than Zhou Chunkaiu. Good chance. Xiao Wuji, who was watching the battle on the sidelines, saw this confrontation. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and his whole person instantly turned into a bolt of lightning and disappeared. Tisk! The lightning tore through the night and quickly approached Ningbiu, who was flying backwards. Snow drinking mania. The sword was automatically unsheathed and fell into Xiao Wuji's hand. The true energy condensed on the mad sword and turned into a huge 40-meter long sword energy. It was the strongest killing move of the Aohan 6 techniques, Cold Blade Bings In. The sword energy slashed angrily. He went down and took Ningbaiu's head directly from his neck. Although it was a sneak attack, Xiao Wuji used the full strength of a half-step master as soon as he came. If this sword hits, Ningbaiu will be seriously injured. If Zhouchunkaiu, if you can seize the opportunity, you can kill Ningbaiu here. However, at the critical moment, Ningbaiu turned over and hung upside down in mid-air. With a flicker of his body, he teleported directly 10 feet away, leaving only an afterimage in place. The sword energy crushed down, instantly splitting the afterimage into pieces. But Ningbaiu's true form successfully dodged the blow. Wrong. Xiao Wuji's eyes flickered, and he was already suspicious. The speed that Ningbaiu showed at that moment was definitely not the speed that a strong mid-level grandmaster could possess. If he really had such speed, he would not be entangled by Zhouchunkaiu. He can leave anytime he wants, so why stay here and fight Zhouchunkaiu? And if he showed such speed from the beginning, Zhouchunkaiu would not be his opponent at all. Is this person hiding his strength? Xiao Wuji turned over and fell, his eyes fixed on Ningbaiu. His gaze was like a knife, as if he wanted to see through Ningbaiu's body. Ningbaiu's face was also a little gloomy at the moment. He took a deep look at Xiao Wuji, and instantly turned into a void. The shadow fled towards the distance. The afterimages were like a dream, and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Ningbaiu completely disappeared into the night sky and disappeared. Only a slight voice came from the night sky, "Xiao Wuji, I remember you. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full level magic system." Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 209. You are fine, very fine. This is a secret message. No one can hear it except Xiao Wuji, not even Zhouchunkaiu. This person actually knows me. Xiao Wuji was even more suspicious. He was very sure that this was the first time he saw Ningbaiu tonight, and it was also the first time that Ningbaiu saw him. But Ningbaiu seemed to know him very well, and was very familiar with him, as if he was not the first person at all. I met Xiao Wuji for the first time. Judging from the tone of his last message, Ningbaiu already knew Xiao Wuji. And this knowledge was not because of the place list or just knowing the name, but because he knew a lot about Xiao Wuji. Deep. This Ningbaiu is not simple. Xiao Wuji looked at the direction where Ningbaiu disappeared, his eyes were deep, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Whoosh. At this moment, a black shadow flashed past, and Zhouchunkaiu came to Xiao Wuji's side. "Wuji, how are you? Are you okay?" Zhouchunkaiu asked with concern. Xiao Wuji said, "I'm fine, Zhou." Chunkaiu breathed a sigh of relief, and then said, "You were too impulsive just now. You shouldn't take action casually. The second brother's strength is enough to deal with him." Xiao Wuji smiled and said, "Don't I want to help? If I had succeeded in the sneak attack just now, my second brother would have taken the opportunity to kill Ningbaiu. But you will also be in danger. Not every sneak attack will be successful. If something goes wrong, your life will be at stake." Xiao Wuji smiled and said, "Don't worry, second brother, I'm sure. Yes, Ningbaiu is not simple." Xiao Wuji also nodded. But Zhouchunkaiu obviously didn't hear the underlying meaning of Xiao Wuji's words. Xiao Wuji then asked, "The last time my second brother led the people to fight against the Tianming sect, wasn't the Grand Master of the Tianming sect Ningbaiu?" Zhouchunkaiu nodded and said, "No, the last time I saw him was Tianming, the leader of the Tianming section. His strength was a bit stronger than Ningbaiu, but I can still handle the second brother." "I see." Xiao Wuji nodded slightly. The successive leaders of the Tianming sect are all called Tianming. This is a rule passed down by the Tianming sect for more than 300 years. However, in Xiao Wuji's view, this Ningbiu is very suspicious. Is Ningbiu hiding his strength because he wants to replace him? Xiao Wuji automatically imagined a conspiracy to seize power in his mind. Struggles for power and profit are not uncommon everywhere, especially among sects. It would not be surprising if Ningbiu had the intention to usurp the throne, hiding his strength and waiting for the opportunity. Let's go back. Zhou Chunkai looked at Xiao Wuji and said, although Ningbiu ran away, tonight's operation was quite successful. At least all the rebel leaders of the Destiny sect have been killed. The rebels have retreated, and Days Who has been defended. Xiao Wuji said as long as the Tianming cult is not eliminated, the rebels will come back soon. We must take advantage of this opportunity to catch them all. Zhou Chunkai nodded, what you said is exactly what I want. Now I just wait for the reinforcements from Bijin Fuzi to arrive. Xiao Wuji said with Brother Juice speed, it can take as short as 3 or 4 days or as long as 5 or 6 days. They will definitely be able to reach Days Who. We have enough time. The key to the question now is that there are 2 great masters in the Destiny section. Second brother, can you deal with them alone? Zhou Chunkai said with a smile, your second brother, I can be the second eunuch, and I have a few trump cards. Don't worry, just Tianming and Ningbiu, even if they join forces, I can take them down. Zhou Chunkai's tone was sonorous, with endless confidence. Xiao Wuji thought about it. Anyone who can be a Taibao is all the best among people. There are countless magical secrets and secret techniques in the secret arsenal of Jinyue. Zhou Chunkai must have practiced it. A few doors. At the critical moment, the combat power he can unleash is definitely far beyond what he appears on the surface. But all this is based on Ningbiu not hiding his strength. Xiao Wuji did not express his suspicions. Zhou Chunkai, whether you believe it or not is one thing. For him, a half-step Grand Master, to see that a strong man in the middle stage of a Grand Master is hiding his strength is inherently unbelievable. Suddenly, Xiao Wuji asked second brother, what do you think of the Destiny sect, where did you get the courage to rebel? Although their leader is a Grand Master, he is only a Grand Master. With their strength, how could the rebellion succeed? Even if the rebellion is successful, the world will not be stable. Are all people in the Destiny sect idiots? Don't understand this. Xiao Wuji has never been able to figure out this issue. You said that when the Destiny sect was first founded more than 300 years ago, it was understandable that you wanted to rebel. After all, the Destiny sect had masters of the unity of nature and man at that time, who had the strength to rebel. After the rebellion is successful, they can also control the world. But more than 300 years have passed, and now there is no strong person in the Destiny sect who can unite nature and man. Even in the past many years, when the Destiny sect was weak, even the strong masters in the sect know. But even so, the Destiny sect still wants to rebel. It's like a 3-year-old child using a toy knife to kill a tiger. It's not overestimation at all, it's simply stupid. 1 generation's stupidity may be a coincidence, and 2 generations may be stupid. It was an accident. But Xiao Wuji couldn't understand why every generation was so stupid. Could it be that stupidity can also be passed down? Zhou Chunkai glanced at Xiao Wuji and said indifferently, I asked you this question before, third brother Yuan Xiong also asked, and we also discussed it with Commander Xia. In the end, we came to the conclusion that the people of the Destiny sect did not rebel in order to become emperors, they rebelled purely for the sake of rebellion. The Destiny sect has been inherited for more than 300 years and has always taken rebellion as its mission, but no one has ever succeeded. Therefore, this has become the knot of hearts of all the members of the Destiny sect, and has also become the knot of hearts of the leaders of the Destiny sect of all generations. The leaders of the Destiny sect of all generations have wanted to succeed in their rebellion and declare to the world that the Destiny sect can do it. As long as they think, they will succeed. They are destined to be chosen by heaven, and they are the spokespersons of heaven. I think this is what is called obsession. Xiao Wuji understands. Obsession makes people obsessed. In a sense, the followers of the Destiny sect are already possessed by the devil. The teachings of the Destiny sect are the greatest of evil thoughts. How sad. Xiao Wuji shook his head and sighed. This Destiny sect is the same as the cult on Blue Star in later generations. The followers have been brainwashed. Generation after generation of people have been brainwashed into fools, and they have even forgotten who they are. He only wants to rebel. Obsession makes people obsessed, and will eventually make people fall into the 9 nether hells, where they will never be reincarnated. Whoosh! 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 Under the dark night, a figure teleported quickly, and finally landed on a big tree in the sky. Under the tree. This person was Ningbayu. Ningbayu coughed, and 4 figures suddenly appeared around him. The 4 people knelt down on one knee and saluted respectfully. "See, Master. Will the trip go smoothly, Master?" Ning Bayu said expressionlessly, "Everything goes well. Jinyue reinforcements have arrived. Pass the news to Tianming. At the same time, pass on the order and let them act according to the plan." Subordinates obey. The 4 people saluted respectfully and turned into 4 black shadows and disappeared into the night. Ningbayu stood with his hands behind his hands, looked up at the bright moon in the sky, and a sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth. "I can't believe that Xiao Wuji also came to northern Xinjiang. Northern Xinjiang is really getting more and more lively. It seems that in addition to the Destiny sect, I can also have unexpected gains this time." Huajiazhuang in Dazhu. Huajiazhuang is a martial arts family in Dazhu and has been inherited for nearly 70 years. The current owner of Huajiazhuang, Hua Wushang, worshipped the Taoist Wuxia when he was young. Shan is just an outer disciple. He has traveled around the world for many years, met many heroes, made friends all over the world, and has a great reputation in the 3 states of northern Xinjiang. It is a pity that he was unlucky and encountered the Tianming cult inciting the refugees to rebel. Tianming, when the teacher first came to northern Xinjiang, the first thing he wanted to do was to regain the martial arts family in northern Xinjiang for his own use. Huajiazhuang was the first to be attacked by them. Hua Wushang would rather die than surrender, so Huajiazhuang was full of people. After the massacre, only Hua Wushang's youngest grandson was rescued by a servant and escaped. The Destiny sect occupied the Magpie's Nest and has now occupied Huajiazhuang as its home. In the lobby of Huajiazhuang, a man wearing a dark mask looked at the man whose true appearance is unclear is sitting in the main seat. The man is full of majesty and has a strong aura. He is Tianming, the leader of the Tianming sect, the great master. On the left and right sides of Tianming, there are 2 people sitting on each side, a total of 4 people. These 4, everyone is an elder of the Tianming sect, and all of them are strong masters. Tianming and the 4 elders said nothing, and suddenly there was an emergency call from outside the door. A disciple wearing a bamboo hat ran in a panic, knelt down and shouted, reporting to the leader, "Something serious has gone wrong. The Jinyue raided the army camp and our men suffered heavy casualties. Now the army has been dispersed." Tian Ming was calm and shouted coldly, "Don't be so flustered. How can you behave like this? The army dispersed, just a new gathering is enough. They are all a bunch of ignorant people anyway. They will do whatever we say. What is there to be nervous about? The Destiny cult incites the refugees to rebel, and the refugees are just pawns in their hands. Their ultimate goal is of course to overthrow the Zhou dynasty, but they are not in a hurry. If you fail this time, there will be a next time, and if you fail next time, there will be a next time. Next time. After the chaos in the Northern Territory is over, there will still be the Southern Territory. If the Southern Territory is not enough, there will still be the Eastern Territory. The refugees will continue to be killed. If one group dies, there will be another group. No matter how many people die, they will not feel bad. The Destiny sect is plain. Asked how many of the leaders are left? Let them gather the army quickly and reorganize the army to fight again. The disciple said respectfully, there are less than 10 leaders left. I'm afraid it will be difficult to gather the troops in a short time. Less than 10 left. Under the mask, Tianming frowned slightly, and the expressions of the 4 elders also changed slightly. Too many people have died, so this is a bit difficult to handle. It doesn't matter, send out another group from the church. No matter what, the fire in northern Xinjiang must be burned this time, and the bigger the fire, the better. Tianming said calmly, inform Elder Zuming and let him personally take charge of this matter. This. Mentioning Elder Zuming, the disciple stuttered, trembled, his face was as pale as paper, and he broke out in cold sweat. What's wrong? Didn't you hear my leader's order? Why don't you go down quickly and deliver the order? Tianming was a little angry. The disciple quickly knelt on the ground and kowtowed, and said in a panic, report to the leader, Elder Zuming has died in the battle. As soon as these words came out, Tianming's expression changed drastically, as did the 4 elders. What did you say? Can you say that again? The 3rd elder suddenly stood up from the chair, grabbed the disciple's collar and shouted loudly. The disciple said tremblingly, Elder Zuming died in the battle. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Martial arts, become invincible starting from the full-level magic system. Author, Drunk in March at West Lake. Chapter 210. Impossible, absolutely impossible. The 3rd elder threw the disciple away and roared, Elder Zuming is the 15th strong master on the earth ranking. How could he die? Could it be that Zhou Chunkaiu took action himself? The 4 elders didn't believe it. They didn't believe that Zhou Chunkaiu would put down his dignity to assassinate a group of innates and masters. That would be a huge loss. Besides, the leader also sent deputy leader Ningbaiu to take charge. Even if Zhou Chunkaiu himself committed suicide, with Ningbaiu here, Zuming can be saved. No matter how many of those innate leaders die, Tianming and the 4 elders will not feel bad. But Zuming is different. He is the law enforcement elder of the Tianming sect, and his status and strength are second only to Tianming and the deputy under the leader Ningbaiu. Moreover, Zuming was very old and senior, and had taken care of Tianming and the 4 elders. Zuming's death was a huge loss to the Tianming sect. The disciple panicked and said Elder Zuming was beheaded by a Jinyi guard Qinhu. The disciple later found out that the Qinhu's name was Xiaowuji. As for the deputy leader, he was stopped by Zhou Chunkaiu and had no time to rescue him. Xiaowuji. Tianming and the 4 elders all widened their eyes. If it's Xiaowuji, it can't be wrong. The 4 elders were silent. Obviously, they have all heard of Xiaowuji's name. The top master in the earth rankings, half of the 257-step Grand Master realm, and even killed the Grand Master Qiang in a sneak attack. The old monster is Yin. Xiaowuji takes action personally. Zuming is definitely not his opponent. Damn it, damn bastard. It seems that we really made the court anxious this time. The 4 elders were angry at Xiaowuji at the same time. As masters, they knew very well that Xiaowuji's strength was definitely superior to them. Even if the 4 of them join forces, they may not be Xiaowuji's opponent. The Tianming sect can deal with it. Xiaowuji only has the leader Tianming and the deputy leader Ningbaiu. But if they want to kill Xiaowuji, the 2 of them may not be able to do it. As we all know, Xiaowuji not only has outstanding sword skills and sharp palm skills, but his light kung fu is also superb. Comparable to it is said that the gods and ghosts have no shadow. In the beginning, Xiao Wuji relied on his superb lightness skills to kill the old monster Yin with a sneak attack. If Xiao Wuji wanted to escape, the great master might not be able to catch up. Suddenly, the four elders felt it's a bit tricky. They are not afraid of the ordinary Kinhu of Jinyue at all, but Xiao Wuji can crush all the grand masters and elders of the Destiny sect by himself. Coupled with the second Taibao Zochunkyu and the follow-up reinforcements of Jinyue, the apparent strength of Jinyue has already surpassed that of Destiny section. Got it? Master, what should we do now? The Jinyue are coming with force, and the situation is not good for us now. The four elders have decided to give up. The Destiny sect has been rebellious for 300 years and can continue to stand firm. Except that their teachings can brainwash people and make their followers extremely loyal. The most important thing is that the people of the Destiny sect in the past generations, they are very aware of current affairs. The Destiny sect never confronts the Imperial Army head-on. Every time, they secretly control the refugees to rebel, and they play chess behind their backs. Once the Imperial Army attacks, they will fight if they can, and if they can't, they will just run away. Keep it. The Green Mountains are here, so there is no need to worry about running out of firewood. Tianming thought for a moment and said coldly, this battle has not come to an end yet. It is too early to retreat now. This rebellion in northern Xinjiang is a rare good opportunity for our Destiny section. We must take advantage of this God-given opportunity to weaken the strength and destiny of the great Zhou dynasty. As long as enough people die, and we continue to add fuel to the flames, the Dog Emperor will definitely lose the support of the people. After we make a comeback, we will be more confident. The four elders nodded slightly, and they all felt that what they said made sense. Opportunities and risks coexist. This time the Jinyue's large-scale attack is dangerous, but it is indeed an opportunity for the Destiny section. The Jinyue are so urgent, which also proves their actions. It indeed had a huge impact on the court. Pass the order and ask the leaders to gather their troops again and fight another day. No matter how strong Xiao Wuji is, he is only a half-step master. This leader can deal with him. Elder Zhu Ming worked hard and made great contributions to the Tianming section. He must not die in vain. No matter what, this leader will kill Xiao Wuji and avenge Elder Zhu Ming. Destiny gave the order, and the people of the Destiny sect quickly took action. At the same time, the Jinyue also began to take action. Zochunkyu, Xiao Wuji, and his party returned to Daizhu. In addition to Zochunkyu, Xiao Wuji and other thousands of households, hundreds of other households all had been killed in the battle, and no one survived. Breaking into the rebel camp and assassinating the leader of the Tianming sect rebels was originally a narrow escape mission. If it weren't for Xiao Wuji's timely support, not only Beihu, but also thousands of people like Zhao Wuqing, Wang Dashan, and Marolong would have died. Huye must die. The rebels had retreated on the second day, and the crisis in Daizhu was temporarily relieved. All the soldiers and civilians of Daizhu breathed a sigh of relief. After 5 days in a row, Daizhu was calm. Finally, on the 6th day, Jutaibao Fankaija-led Jinyue reinforcements arrived. Everyone gathered in the lobby of Daizhu Kinhuizhuo. Ninth brother, you are finally here. Zochunkyu personally led people to greet him. He brought 2 teams of Jinyue Kinhu, one of his own and one of Xiao Wuji's. Xiao Wuji's old subordinates, Shuihua and Song Liman, all came. Fankaija he cupped his hands and said, my younger brother came a step later and kept my second brother waiting for a long time. While speaking, Fankaija and Xiao Wuji looked at each other and nodded slightly. Xiao Wuji also called Brother 9. What is the current situation in northern Xinjiang? Fan Kaija asked straight to the point. Zochunkyu said the rebels have retreated a few days ago, and they will not be able to gather together in a short time. As long as we wipe out the Destiny sect before then, without the guidance of the rebels will be useless. After that, all we need to do is appease the refugees and provide disaster relief, and the chaos in northern Xinjiang can be resolved. Fan Kaija nodded and said, "Please give me the order, second brother." Brothers are impatient to wait. This group of rebels from the Tianming sect confuses the people and harms innocent people, and everyone will be punished. Not killing these traitors is not enough to make the people angry, and not killing them is not enough to uplift the world. Zhou Chunkaiu said. We have found out where the Destiny sect's home base is, and they are currently lingering in Huajiazhuang. Afterwards, Zhou Chunkaiu introduced the details of Huajiazhuang to everyone. After listening to Zhou Chunkaiu's explanation, everyone understood the reason and became even more angry with the Destiny section. It killed everyone at the slightest disagreement. It was indeed an evil section. With the Destiny sect's behavior of killing innocent people indiscriminately, how dare they say that they are destined by destiny and are qualified to choose the emperor on behalf of heaven? If they are really allowed to act wantonly, then God is really blind. Zhou Chunkaiu looked around at the thousands of households. He shouted coldly, the Destiny sect's crimes are unpardonable. This trip is a bloodbath in Huajiazhuang. No one from the Destiny sect will be left alive. Subordinates obey. Everyone responded in unison. After a night's rest, on the morning of the next day, Zhou Chunkaiu led all the Jinyi guards in the city to dispatch and kill Huajiazhuang. 1,000 households have 400 households under their command, and 100 households have 4 general banners, and the general banner commanded 40 people. In other words, 100 household squad had 165 people. 1,000 household squad had more than 660 people. Fan Kaija brought 2,000 household squads with a population of 1,300 people. Up and down, this is a full zero. Lei Bie, Zhao Wuqing, Sun Lai and other 1,000 household teams have suffered losses, but at least half of them. The 5,000 household teams, with an average of more than 300 people, add up to nearly 1,500 people. Therefore, Zhou Chunkaiu brought out more than 2,800 people today, nearly 3,000 people. 3,000 people are already a small force, fighting towards Huajiazhuang in a mighty manner. Along the way the rolling yellow sand splashed up and was unstoppable. Zhou Chunkaiu did not want to cover up his whereabouts and acted secretly. That was done by a young man, or he did it under unavoidable circumstances. This trip was to defeat the rebels, and he represented the great Zhou dynasty. We must clean up all the rebels of the Destiny sect in an honest and upright manner. Only in this way can we declare to the world the orthodoxy of the imperial court and let the world know how powerful the imperial court is, and the people's hearts will be stable. It will also let some ill-intentioned Jianghu forces know the power of the great Zhou dynasty still exist. Any young person who dares to stroke the tiger's beard will be crushed to pieces by the imperial court. This trip is not only to defeat the rebels, but also to kill the chicken to scare the monkeys. Drive! 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 Zhou Chunkaiu galloped on his horse. Xiao Wuji and Fan Kaija were one position behind him, one on the left and the other on the right. Phew! Suddenly, an eagle roar came from the sky. Xiao Wuji looked up at the sky and saw a huge eagle hovering high in the sky above his head. Flying eagle. The flying eagle soars in the sky, and the scene on the earth is unobstructed, all in its eyes. Another flying eagle. Xiao Wuji frowned. This is not the first time Xiao Wuji has seen a flying eagle. Since coming to Daizhu, Xiao Wuji has seen flying eagles circling above his head several times. This reminded him of some people in the world who used the flying eagle legend to book. This flying eagle must have been tamed by someone, used to inform people, and also has the ability to monitor. Did you come with the traitor? Xiao Wuji remained calm on the surface, but he was already secretly vigilant in his heart. He glanced behind him without any trace, and saw everyone's expressions in his eyes. But everyone's expressions were as usual. Behind Xiao Wuji are Lei Bie, Zhao Wuqing, Sun Lai and other thousands of households. All of them have no flaws. Wait a little longer, when the time comes. Xiao Wuji sneered in his heart and turned his head. The group of people galloped on their horses and disappeared on the official road. At the same time, when the Jinyue brigade left the city, the Destiny sect in Huajiazhuang already knew about the arrival of the Jinyue. Not only in this way, they had long expected that this day would come, and had already set up an ambush to invite you to enter the urn. The Jinyue wanted to wipe out the Tianming sect, and the Tianming sect also wanted to wipe out the Jinyue. If they could eradicate this group of Jinyue headed by Zhou Chunkaiu, the chaos in northern Xinjiang would be the situation will be completely out of control. Before the third batch of imperial guards arrive, they can completely turn the three northern Xinjiang states into a living hell. When the news spreads, the people of the Zhou dynasty will boil with resentment, and forces from various places that are dissatisfied with Emperor Jingtai will also take advantage of the opportunity. Rise up. At that time, the Zhou dynasty court ignored the head and tail, and affected the whole body. The day may change overnight. Behind Huajiazhuang, there is a huge mountain. There is a cliff protruding from the mountain, like a tongue growing out of a high mountain. Under the tongue is a cliff. Once it falls, it will be broken into pieces and no bones will be left. At this moment, there is a figure standing on the edge of the cliff, standing with his hands behind his back. The breeze blows, the robe on the man was moved, and his long hair was also blown. This man has a tall and straight posture, extraordinary temperament, and the aura of a superior person, which makes people dare not look directly. If Xiao Wuji were here, he would definitely be able to recognize, this person is the deputy leader of Tianming sect, Ningbiu.